You can go ask them what they're gonna put in it right there.
Well, I don't need to ask you, everybody told me.
Okay.
But has it all been the same?
Pretty much.
You can go ask them what they're gonna put in it right there.
Well, I don't need to ask you, everybody told me.
But has it all been the same?
Are we on?
Okay, welcome to the Morgan City Council, April 12th, 2022. And we'll launch into our work meeting. I've got one change because Kel's such a good guy. We're going to put him as number 1 instead of number 3.
I just want to make you go through.
Well, he is number 1.
Okay. Get 2210. All right. Okay, Kel, we'll turn some time in your report. Spend a little time reading through it. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, as I say, what do you want me to read through everything or just kind of go quickly over it? What's there, I mean, not a whole lot's changed really, other than our dollar amount, and everything. But as in what construction costs. But everybody knows that. Say just to start out, it all just ask who's in charge or who's the DRC or whatever, who they contact, which is me, obviously. Then it just goes through our accounts, whatever, if we're documenting and budgeting, which we're doing. Which I don't know. I did have a lady contact me. Because right here, the question's like, do you have a water and sewer customer assistance program or CAP? I did have a lady contact me a couple weeks ago wanting to meet with me that said it doesn't cost the city a dime, but she wanted to meet with me. And it was it was a fund like that they put together for if a resident does have a sewer lateral that needs replacing, that it helps the system, which I don't know how I don't know the ins and outs of it at all. She just asked. I mean, I could meet with her if that's something you guys would want to be interested in, at least checking out. She said it's 0 cost to the city, which I don't know how that works, but it's a sewer customer assistance program. It goes sewer and water.
I know you can get it through your homeowners association.
Yeah, we looked at that before.
Did it not?
Yeah, we looked at that before for water and sewer, and it's something that a lot of places have done, but really there's.
Saying I've never heard.
All we
of it
do is say
last year.
all we do is recognize that we allow it, but the homeowners all have to pay into it. And then it's like
Okay, so that's what it
it's
is.
like a special insurance for them.
Okay, all right.
But most people have that available
Yep.
if they just check their homeowner's insurance.
Exactly. And if you put it as a rider on your homeowner insurance, because I did this in the last year, I can't remember if I did sewer and water, but I know I did water, and it covers anything from the meter into the home. And I'm pretty sure you can do it on sewer as well.
Okay.
I just put a rider on my homeowner's insurance policy, and you might tell people, and it wasn't very much. I mean, we're talking a few dollars a month, maybe,
Oh,
to
okay.
your existing homeowners. And
Yeah.
it covers, your line running into your home for both sewer and water. So.
So program tied, if we were to adopt one, it'd be funded by the taxpayers, is that correct?
No, it's not even funded. It just means we said we've chose this
Yes.
company and
Like a rider
policy company. It's
Yeah,
third
yeah.
party.
Yeah, it's a third
Oh,
party.
yeah.
We've had that presented to us before.
Mhm.
And where they said it doesn't cost the city
Yeah,
anything.
and we just,
Right.
It
and
doesn't cost the city anything because
there's, yeah, but there's a handful
homeowners
of different
pay.
a handful of different companies that do that so that they can get a,
Yeah, Dominion
It's
does
like-
it, I think.
Dominion does it. They'll send you a letter every once in a
yeah,
while.
like a little gap insurance or whatever. And they chose one. We just decided, when it came, the council decided we didn't
We were.
want to
pretty,
because people are
pretty friendly.
covered.
We didn't want to do it. at
Yeah.
the time. Gotcha.
And I actually went and checked mine and mine had it on there already. So I didn't even add it as a rider. I got upsold before I even,
On both water and sewer, was it?
yeah, yeah, I covered everything in
And it's-
between the meter and my,
And it's not, it's not very
no,
expensive.
I didn't add much, but I was covered, so I was good with it.
Say the next list of questions here over budget, if our revenues, sewer revenues are sufficient to cover operating and maintenance costs. Ty's been helping me still understand the budget and everything like that, but as things have been right now, we've been able to cover all the motors and pumps that seem to always go out with the sewer.
Can I ask you a question on
Sure.
page 4?
Yes.
And this comes up every year.
4 of 8.
Yeah, 4 of
Okay.
8. You know, it starts out our sewer revenues are sufficient to cover all costs of current capital improvement projects. I mean, I think, I'm pretty sure every year I've been, that's always been no. But I mean, what in the world what would it take to be able to answer that in the affirmative? First of all, you'd have to have an idea of what all current capital projects would be, right?
Yeah, so in our scenario, it's just basically, we know our next steps of full mechanical plant. So right now, out of our own revenue, or do we have enough set aside to do a $8 million facility? No, we're always gonna have to bond for it.
And I guess the next part of that would be that already our sewer rates are fairly high. So I mean, you'd have to have a sewer rate that would be out of this world in order to anticipate that cost, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it sounds like I think it's also maybe interpretation because on an annual basis, we have sufficient revenue for
Sure.
day-to-day, year-to-year. Yeah, could we afford a future bond payment where we just went through that? We maxed out our, it's a pretty big sewer bill, but that's what was required to meet that bond obligation. So we're not funding 100% of depreciation. The pipes in the ground are all gonna need replaced, but the answer to that is like, barring grants, we're doing pretty good. I mean, that's the other part of the equation. We put some grant money into.
Can I ask one more question at this point? Maybe I dreamed this, I can't remember. Was it my understanding that there's a figure out there on what is a reasonable cost for the sewer enterprise fund based on the median income of the community before you're eligible for grant money and that type of thing? Is there a magic number out there like for Morgan City that you could, once you hit a sewer rate of this?
Yeah, so that's actually established at the state level and it's 1.5% of median adjusted gross income. For water, it's 1.7. It's not a system rate. It's just what they're saying a typical person should be able to pay, afford. So it has nothing to do with operating an actual system or what the system costs or what an appropriate rate is. The rate has to cover the system.
But it is based on that median household
Yep.
income, is that, so I didn't entirely dream it up, but.
No, and the reason why we're there is because that's what allows us to access the state fund. So even if you went for a
Right,
loan,
right, okay.
a low interest loan, and you're not there, they're gonna say, well, you're not charging a responsible amount
See,
in order to ask us for assistance. You gotta do at least up to that amount. So anyway,
Are we responsible?
it seemed like we were, Seemed like
Yeah,
we
we're
were
right there.
bumping, kind of bumping up against that number the last time
We're there. Yeah, no, we're there for sewer. We're not there for water.
sorry.
No, that's fine. Which, I mean, I guess that next question on the bottom is of the rate study, which that's what we did, and that's what Ty's talking about. Which I wasn't here for that, but. Going into impact fees, nothing's changed there. We're still charging the same impact fees. And I don't know, some of these questions, I just don't get them. Like, do you know the, I don't get why they ask them, like the total replacement cost of your system. It all changes depending on what they're charging to fix it. Or what construction's going for. So some of these questions I don't get.
Yeah.
There, our current project. If you go to 7-8. We're looking into, that's what, I think that number's right. I went over it a couple times, but if nothing changes, we're at 731,000. For the new aeration system, which if you guys haven't heard us small talking over here, I have got complaints already on the smell. Because I thought I was being proactive. You can blame it all on me. But I went down to St. George for the first week of March. And when we were talking about awarding the bid to Jordash, when we awarded it and that, he wanted to start March 1st. And so I talked to him, he said, yeah, get everything out of the way, get it ready to go. And so I went in the week before and ripped all the aerators out and knocked the building over and was getting it ready for them to come in. And then that evening, he sent out an email that said ductile iron pipe was 8.5 weeks out. So I was trying to be a little ahead of the game, and now our residents got smelly air. So it was not done on purpose. But
When is that resolved? When would you expect it to be?
so they said originally 8.5 weeks, and then 3 weeks in, they added another 4 weeks to it on the production of it. So, I mean, we're still another 6 weeks out from that date before they can start.
Hotter the temperature, the worse it gets.
Yes, it will. Which is weird because, see, I thought my numbers would be out of whack. And I took my samples and got the results back last night. And for the first time all summer long, I wasn't over on my BOD, which is what's been hitting us so bad, which is what the oxygen knocks down. But so, I mean, we have a limit of 65 and I came in at 38, and my sample before that was 69. It was just a point over, or 67, 2 points over. But so we hit our mark this time, but we'll see how it is this month when I sample. But the worst part of it is our residents are gonna be dealing with the smell. So you're gonna hear that, I'm sure.
Nothing you can do other than just wait, I guess.
No, there's,
Blowing straws.
the problem is, yes, there's chemicals and stuff you can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on to add oxygen in, but in doing so, it adds nitrate, and then we get over on our limit on our nitrate. So the best thing is just to,
It doesn't get too hot.
Did they give you, they got an idea of when their materials are in?
yeah, it should be about 6 more weeks, but we'll have to check back with Corn Main and see.
As long as we stay cool, the stink's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if it keeps snowing, we might all be happy. More than one benefit there. Okay, the next page, 217, I mean, I don't know if you even care to hear all that. It's all the same. 15-inch pipe's our largest pipe. Average depth of the system's 8'8". Got about 25, 26 miles in length of sewer pipe, 3 lift stations, fixed pump, 750 gallons per minute, which has been keeping up plenty with everything so far. I did have the SL, or I had Twin D come out and they did a sonic Send sound from manhole to manhole to check for anything, any pipe that's got any buildup in it. And I was really impressed with that. We only had, 3 sections of pipe that needed to be cleaned out. And everything was still flowing in them. There was a couple that had rocks sitting on the side of them in there that have probably been there since construction or somebody dropped them down the manhole. But overall, like our system is really nice infiltration wise, like groundwater coming in through the manholes. We only had a few of them and it was barely even making the concrete wet. And that was in the spring when they did that, so. Overall, we're doing good there.
Okay, I'll do it. I just asked Jeff, sorry to bother you again.
Oh.
As I recall, once upon a time, we used to budget so much every year to do so much sewer pipe, TV, so much sewer pipe.
Uh-huh.
Every 3rd year, are we still doing that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, I had them TV some last year.
okay.
So what I'll do, what I did last year is it's the first year they've had that program on, which the SL RAD is what they call it,
Okay.
which is nice too, because they map out my system and then send me their little link to that. But they'll go through and then all the problem areas they'll TV and give to me.
Okay.
And then I had them TV a little extra too. So yeah. I'm still trying to get all that done, which I think that ass in here, but I'd probably blanket it right over it. Does that cover what you're asking?
Yeah, I just curious if we were still doing that, so sounds like we are.
I just looked at our billing. We had a total of 190 connections in the last calendar year. Between business and residential.
It's a 13% growth. That's significant for us.
Yeah. Which I'm glad our new aeration system's coming in, because when we did our study originally with them aerators, I think Jamie had them that our influent was bringing in about 230 BOD, and the month before last, I had 450 come in. So that dang near doubled.
So Kale, on page 12, okay.
Page 12.
So is the entire collection system TV inspected at least every 5 years?
Yeah.
That's a no?
Well, I haven't had the whole entire system is the thing.
Okay,
Every 5 years is what it is. That's what I meant by no.
What percent are we, you think, Cal?
If I could find them all, I'd have to do that calculation up there. But I know there's some new subdivisions that I can't even find the TV inspection. I've looked all through them on some of them new ones, which I know were done and I haven't. Like on Mahogany Ridge there, we had, and I don't know if Gray Jensen had those TV at the time. I reckon he did, but we had that leak up there on that foundation on that little HOA in the middle of the bottom. I don't even know what it's called, but they had a leak and we're saying it was the sewer. But I couldn't find TVs on that, so I had them TV it anyway, even though we found out their water service was leaking. But okay, other than that, just any comments I had, which I've already talked about with the BOD and the diffusers. The diffusers should take care of all our BOD problems. Our TSS, which is our algae, and that's been really good lately. I haven't had any problems with that. So other than the duckweed, we gotta always try and control, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense spending the amount of money it takes on it. And then I did notice, I don't know if you noticed, but this year I did put that the council hasn't approved it yet. I put that you'd be looking at it tonight. And like last year,
Yeah, I
jumped the gun
remember.
and said you guys approved it before you did.
Right. Kale, look on the first report on page 6, it looks like there might be an error at the end of part 4.
On page 6.
Yeah, of the first report. 6 pages of 8.
And where are you looking at?
Just the very last item there, what is the sewer treatment system annual assessed renewal cost as a percentage of its total replacement
Oh
cost?
my, I did that completely wrong.
Yeah, so a percentage, it looks like you've just given a total, probably one of
I
the.
went off what we had on the last 2 years instead of a percent.
So turn it into a percentage before you send it in. Any idea what that'd be without?
Once again, if you guys have any hints you can give me as I'm still learning, how do you do a percentage of that when you don't know what the cost of everything is to replace it by foot of pipe and like the way things have been, it's so unpredictable because fuel could go up to $7 a gallon next month. And, you know, how much does construction go up when fuel goes up, Jeff?
I'm not- What are they trying to, what do you think they're asking there, Ty?
You know what I mean? Like,
When was the last time we updated our impact fee on our sewer system? Or
it
wastewater?
was with the rate study is when they did it. I wasn't here, but it should have been on. I can't remember when.
We do the rate study. I mean, it's part of this here.
Maybe direct.
March. 2016, I think. Or no, that was the date.
So on this one question down here, Gary, it says on 15 or 17, it says, are you currently preparing or updating its capital facilities plan? Is your utility currently preparing or updating its capital facilities plan? Wouldn't technically that be done when you did an impact fee study on
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
on an enterprise fund?
Typically it is, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that percentage one would probably be like a 2%.
2%.
So if you think about, we replaced how many blocks of line last year for $800,000? And that was water, right?
The water system.
Yep, right. So what percent of that was the overall system?
Placement cost, right?
Uh,
To replace
Pretty
the
low.
whole thing.
right? It's a very small couple blocks. So comparatively, if you think sewer line, which we haven't replaced, we had to.
26 miles of line would be significant.
Yeah, so on an annual basis, if $500,000 gets you 1,500 feet of line, we're not in percentage wise, yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Maybe that'd be a no then.
Well, I just say on our annual, like, and the reality is you never have to replace the entire system, right? So it's
Yeah.
whatever percent of the system over how many years, so say over 50 years. The actual life is probably based on 30-year
Yeah.
replacement. It's so pretty low. I just say on any given year, we're not funding replacement. That's where I say all of this effort is without grants, there's no way to. So anyway,
So,
So if you come
that
up-
was my math, David, on how I came up with the percentage
I like it.
without a calculator.
Works for me.
So if you had a
Just
current
fill it in.
wastewater
Put that
impact
number
fee
there, we're
study
good to
done,
go.
you should be able to answer that. Page 15 is your utility currently preparing updated capital facilities plan.
So-
You should be able to answer that as yes, if you've just had an impact fee study done.
So capital facilities plan is kind of the plan going out
Right.
into the future 50 years. The impact fee facilities plan, the IFFP, is the 6-year plan.
Okay,
So it's a subset of the capital facilities plan. So
so the answer would be not
not
necessarily.
necessarily, yeah. However, at the same time, we do a capital facilities plan and try and determine an appropriate fee levels. We ought to do the IFFP at the same time, impact fee facilities plan, because they overlap each other and it's more economical to do them both at the same time.
Yeah, that's what we did. We just finished the capital facilities plan,
Oh.
like right before we asked for funding for the sewer, and the rate and the impact fee was studied at the same time.
What's scary then, the sewer system,
Implement that.
sewer system management.
But to implement it,
Sewer system management plan?
Yeah, what's that one? Man? Is that a,
I don't know.
that one we adopted in 2016? According to the report.
I cannot remember what that is.
I don't know. I have a booklet down there that says
big book is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
facility, yeah.
that's what it was.
I don't-
and
I
that's
don't
when it
know
was
the-
adopted.
Does that need to be updated? I mean, that's what, 5, 6 years old.
Better start looking through it.
So there's a process you need to go through to increase your impact fees. So was that a preliminary, just you need to be increasing your impact fees? Is that what they?
we actually finished,
gonna
yeah, we
write on it
finished the
again.
study. And that's,
Yep.
we adopted a new impact fee for sewer, and it's the most recent thing that we have, so I think we're good. Unless there's a requirement to update it every so often.
There's a whole bunch of requirements you have to go through before you actually increase the fee. I just haven't seen that come through. Like, for example, before you start the impact fee facilities plan, you have to give notice so many days in advance to, you have to give general notice through the website. Then you have to, you do the study, right?
Yeah.
And then you do the analysis, and then you do the actual imposition of the plan. And each one has a
Notice
period of time,
requirements,
notice
yeah.
requirements in a period of time that they need
So-
to.
We did that, didn't we? Or no?
I don't remember doing that.
I don't remember doing
For a
it.
while.
but-
Been a while. That's-
Well-
Oh, when, are you saying how many years ago?
Yeah,
was it?
like when I first started, like in 2017, when we just
Oh,
seemed like we were on the back end of that process when we adjusted the impact fees.
I thought you were talking just recently. I'm sorry.
No.
It was when I first started, that they were finalizing.
That whole
I do
process.
remember that. We
Yeah.
went through, the notice and everything else.
Yeah, it
back in
was,
2017.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
it
remember.
was Jamie and JUB was the.
Yeah.
They
I
came
thought
up-
we're
they
talking
came up
about recently,
presented, we had the
then.
public hearings.
We probably, it probably warrants looking at again, because we're probably way under collecting what it costs to put those pipes in. I mean, pipe has gone up tremendously.
If you can get it.
The
Yeah.
last impact fee study we did.
Yeah, so we're working on, we haven't gone through this full process, but water is our next big concern. So we did all that, and
Yes.
the sewers is probably the most up to date, even though it might be time to start again. We still haven't completed the other utilities, so. Anyway,
I remember that when you came in. so.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about recently, and I'm going.
no,
That's what I was thinking.
recently in city time.
City government.
Okay. That's, unless you guys have anything else, that's all I've got.
One quick question, Cal, how many linear feet of ductile iron do you need?
I need to look at my plans and pull them up. It should be.
Got some for sale?
Everything for sale. I don't know what size.
8-inch. Like 425 or something like that. Just going off the measurement of the sides of my ponds.
Any more discussion?
Cal. Thanks, Cal. Thank you. I'm sure you just love doing this.
Thanks for putting up with me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Nope.
Okay, so let's go to the old number 1, amendment to Title 10, Chapter 10.08, sections 10.08, 0.030, and 10.08. .40 of the Morgan City Code regarding notice and public hearing provisions of the land use code to comport with state law changes. So ordinance is 2203. Everybody had a chance to look at that?
Yes, I have.
Any discussion?
So, Mary, are you aware of what, is the council aware of what we did here, right? We limited it to one meeting, one hearing, which is what the state law requires for master plan changes and zone changes. And the other thing we did was I just took straight out of state law the publication requirements and the notice requirements for both meetings and for the hearings.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. In particular, we eliminated, and it may be that in those other requirements, we cover the same thing. And so I appreciate your thought on it, Gary, but we've eliminated a 300 feet notice requirement to neighboring property owners. And as I read through that, it appears that if there were a zoning change, for example, you could be a neighbor, you could border a property that's going to be changed and not notified in particular, other than the general notices that we talk about. In all of our process, which started with the council in wanting to eliminate the one hearing, there's never been any discussion of eliminating that 300 feet. And this is the first that I've seen that we're doing it. And I guess I would have some concern. I felt the 300 feet. And I'd also be interested to Denise, in hearing from you on how maybe onerous that is too. But that seems important to me, that the neighboring property owners are dutifully notified. You had a
Is it
comment?
okay if I make a comment, Gary?
Absolutely.
Mayor,
It's okay.
legally if it's okay, and then I would, anyway, just so the council's aware, I was in that meeting because I wanted to make sure what was happening with the ordinance before I brought it before you guys. And after the meeting, they went through this whole ordinances and they passed it the way it was.
Mhm.
They never brought up the deletion of the 300 feet. And so I was worried that they may have skipped over it. So I called Jake Young, our new planner, and just ran it by him. And he felt similar, that they hadn't discussed that at all. And, there was a possibility that they may not have noticed. And so I sent an email out to each of the planning commission members and Dave and Tony, and just said, during the conversation, I just want to verify if you guys were aware that you took this portion out of the code and we are no longer required to give that 300 feet notice to property owners. I got a response from every one of the planning commission members, and they said, yes, they were fully aware that that is what their intention was and that's what they wanted.
And
So
fair enough,
just-
even though they were aware, there was no discussion in the meeting about taking it out or leaving it in, and that'd be some concern there.
What was interesting to me is they did discuss hanging a sign
Yeah, they wanted to even
on
do
the-
more,
on the
which.
property that was in question to
Yeah.
be rezoned.
And-
I'd not noticed that until the last year or so. I'm driving around out in the county, I've seen.
Yeah, the
The
county
county
will
must
do
have
it.
adopted that, because
Right.
I have seen pieces of property with the sign. Like, I think it's a yellow sign that says.
Yeah,
it.
I think Denise looked it up at the moment, or Teresa, and
Yeah.
it wasn't it wasn't part of the county's ordinance. It was
No,
more of
it's-
just a best practice arrangement, but
Well, the developer is the one that's responsible for putting the sign at his cost out. County
nonetheless,
doesn't do it.
the commission backed away from that and said, no, let's not make it any more burdensome than it is. But
Right.
again,
Right.
keep in mind, no discussion about our 300 feet, either for or against, regardless of whether they recognize it or not. We didn't talk about why are we taking it out or why don't we leave it in. So then looking at the changes, Gary, with the state, is that a fair statement as we review that if you were a property owner and you bordered a zoning change, you would not be notified other than the general requirements?
I think we actually, do we put a sign up on the property?
No.
We don't?
No.
Yeah, that would be what that would mean. What I did was I just took exactly what the state law requires.
Sure,
and-
the
and
minimum
If you want to add
requirements.
more
Yeah.
to that, the 300 feet
Fair
is,
enough.
is in addition, but the 300 feet also becomes very cumbersome when the city does a large change, master plan change or a large zone change, because then you have to send letters to everybody essentially.
Yeah, so Denise, talk just a little bit about how cumbersome that is. I'd like to hear, when you have to send that to everybody, is that an issue?
Well, it's a cost to the city. We have a program that's been developed that Teresa can put in the property that's affected, and it'll draw a circle around and
Okay.
print us off the list
Okay.
of those addresses pursuant to the tax roll. The problem is the tax roll is not always up to date. So then we spend time going through each of those and making sure that it matches with the current property owner and everything. So we don't send letters to people that don't live there anymore. So that takes a little bit of time. And then when she sends out the letter, she sends the public hearing notice and maps. There's about 6 pages that goes inside the letter, and then we just mail them out. Cutting back the second public hearing to the city council, because I was also having to do that process for the city council hearing. So cutting back that one would cut back one of the noticing, if that made sense.
Yeah, you know, with some of our recent changes, particularly up on is it 7th East there, you know, I had the question asked, well, would so-and-so be aware of that where they hadn't showed up to the meeting? Maybe they didn't know. And, you know, it was a nice answer. Absolutely. They were given a delivered notice that says, this will affect you. You have an opportunity to come to the public hearing.
And a lot of those addresses go out to people with living trusts. And so they go to the trustee, and they don't even live here
Sure.
in Morgan.
No,
So
fair enough. I mean, they can do what they want, I guess, when if they don't live here, they may not have much interest in it. So be it. So anyway, I think maybe before moving on, I'd like to hear a feeling on Ty. Any thoughts on your end on that?
No, I appreciate the comment. And I think one of my feeling, because Denise told me kind of what happened and how it all played out, and then she did some extra homework to find out. But
Sure.
my
well
view
done.
is it wasn't ever talked about, because I don't think anybody's ever felt like the noticing was ever our issue. Right. So we've never had that concern expressed that we don't give enough notice. To your point, it's like, yeah, people are directly so we don't know what it's like without that
Mhm.
noticing requirement. But it was never discussed as a group, because we've had multiple
Sure.
hearings, but we've never, so I don't know if I should tease or not, but once anything happens in someone's neighborhood, there's enough people that are, what's
Mhm.
going on in my backyard, that noticing has never been our challenges.
Yeah.
But
to
our
me-
responsibility is something else to look at. So I think what you're saying is, hey, we eliminated one of the hearings, which was the intent of the whole thing.
Right.
Do we want the pendulum to swing too far the other way, where we do have that situation where somebody doesn't know?
I mean, that's an indication to me that maybe it has worked, is that we don't hear the people saying, I didn't know about it. You know?
So that's just, and to have that discussion, I think it's appropriate for council. Just because it didn't come up in planning commission,
Mhm.
you kind of make the final say. So if you feel like it's a safe bet, or you feel like it's not going to be an issue, doesn't hurt to decide among yourselves. And
Yeah, well, or, I mean, ideally, we would have had the discussion ahead of time, but it probably was just something that was never
but then
thought.
she did reach out and find out that all of the planning commissioners gave the same recommendation, even though they didn't specifically say, they just didn't see that was a big deal. So part of that could also be,
I would have felt better if they would have discussed and said, this is a very conscious decision rather than, and yet that's a strong argument too, Gary, that here's the minimum that the state requires. And I guess it boils down to, do we want to do one step more than the minimum?
So my feeling is, when we send out that notice, that, does that actually also create some negative things to the developer who might be
Okay, there-
within the codes and the ordinances and could do what he planned to do with this property?
I mean, there was a little discussion similar amongst the planning commission members that, or at what point do we overdo it? At what point are we overselling the change? And I think it needs to be made available to those it's affected, and particularly those close in particular. But yet, we don't need to be standing on the mountaintop telling Mountain Green that there's a zoning change on a block in Morgan City. It has the potential of bringing maybe too much interest in it, if you will, and maybe that's not a possibility. But the planning commission had similar concerns, and in fact, hence they backed away from the posting the sign on it. Just I think in part because of that we didn't want to overdo it either. So again, I think we look at a minimum what works. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can, Mayor, another thing that came out just as staff comment is we'll have a reader board out in front of our building in the future where we can put public hearing, we can put, different things that we've also never tried. I don't think we're worried about over noticing, or we're not worried about, like, there's an appropriate amount, but it is what it is. And regardless of whose neighborhood or who the developer is, it's still our job to, get the word out. How that happens or what's the appropriate method or at what level, that's definitely your call. But that was also, I don't know when it came up in discussion, but our intent is to have a reader board out in front of, with this basement project, like they get a lot of attention, probably more so than at the post office or at
Right.
Ridley's, and so we can easily, include that as part of our get the word out type thing as well.
I appreciate David's comment, because I kind of thought about the same thing. Are we going to leave some people in the dark? But I guess my only thought was a couple of things is that, and Ty mentioned this a minute ago, I suppose if we adopted this as is, and then down the road, we started getting a lot of complaints from folks saying, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. I mean, it's a living document. We could always probably say, okay, so maybe we need to look at it again. That's just a thought I had, is give it
It's easily fixed, right?
sure, just, see if that boat floats, and if it doesn't, we can make a change. The other thing for Jeff and Jeffrey's sake is that this also, there was a lot of discussion about the public hearing would be essentially in planning commission, but there was some discussion about then the city council would not have a public hearing, but yes, we still would have we'd have the public comment and the public meeting portion of our city council meeting if people wanted to still have a comment on it. So, but not a public hearing.
If it's not a public hearing, though, we don't have to consider those comments at the moment, though. Our public meeting is our council meeting. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah.
Yes, you don't have to take public comment, but you can.
And it's entirely up to the mayor, right?
The mayor
Okay.
and the council.
I think that's an option, Tony. In fact, I tend to like that just because it's the minimum that the state requires. And
But I would say if we start getting a lot of, complaints, then maybe we need to look at it again.
I wouldn't feel bad about it as is, just because that's what the state is asking us to do. And you could always fall back to that. Well, we're doing everything that the state requires.
And that is a good safety net because it always follows. So if someone said, hey, there was a public hearing and I didn't know about it, you always have that option to just hold one up.
Yeah, we can always
I mean,
hold a second
Yeah.
public hearing.
To submit your comments.
Absolutely.
Or,
Yeah,
or
good
just,
point.
it still hasn't been decided, right? That was planning commission, submit your comments and
But I kind of look at this.
Send it back to the commission for a second hearing. Because
you have some options.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah,
Look at this as a test drive, so, you know, just. see what
I
happens.
think I'd feel good about that.
Yeah, I like that.
If we, but keep in the back of our minds that that could be a
So
issue.
our reality is that people know about things way before they're proposed.
Yeah.
If,
Uh,
even,
Morgan Moms?
even property transactions, it's like, well, I haven't heard that yet. I haven't received an application,
Yeah.
so.
So,
So what
I
I
learned-
hear
no, go ahead, Jeff.
is that we may still do a second hearing at city council.
Good.
So why should we even change this?
Well, this says that we need to, like,
You're saying we're doing it in planning only.
as the minimum, but we could do another one. But not standard practice to do two of them all the time.
We're not required to do two,
Right.
where we are right now, right today.
We are today, but when this changes,
Right.
but that's what I'm saying. We're still turn around and have a second one, maybe it even.
So.
Not-
second one-
not
the second
likely.
one Would always be a public meeting
Not a hearing.
and not a hearing. So it's a little different. And that way the council can decide what it wants to hear, if there's new information or what it doesn't want to hear. And there's a significant difference between letting everybody that wants to get up speak and addressing whatever issue the council feels is important in the public meeting. There may not be anything, you know, we heard, I can think of one hearing that we had that where it was way off base, you know, it was talking about tax benefits to the municipality and all this other things. And they were new things that the planning commission, and they were irrelevant things, but they were new things that the planning commission hadn't even heard. So the developer would have to present his case during the planning commission meeting. And if there's anything else the council needs to hear, you control that meeting, and it's not just a general open public hearing anymore. You can accept comment if you wish, but
Well, that would
Gary,
be
did I,
something, Steve, where you say, here's what we've already heard. Does anybody have anything new or different?
Well, it can be the experience that everybody that has a comment is saying the same thing. as
Yeah,
the
well,
other.
that happened with the Rubs, just one after another.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
But in light of that, Gary, so I asked this question. So I've noticed there's been time sitting in planning commission. I'll a public hearing, I'll hear comments. And then sometimes it'll get to city council. And now I'm hearing things that were never even discussed in the public hearing and planning. And I think I asked this question. I think I got an answer to it. Could the city council once again kick it back to the planning commission with all this other information comes to light where they again can address it
yes.
and hold a public hearing again? Or would they,
Yes, or you could just kick it back to the planning commission to consider the new information that you
that
received.
you've heard?
Narrowly focused on what that was.
Because I know that's happened in the past. I'm sitting there in city council going, well, I never heard this in this, issue in the planning public hearing. So
And the planning commission should hear all of the information
well, you would
in order to
think,
make an appropriate recommendation to you folks. So
but that is an option we have, is to say, okay, we're going to send it back to the planning commission. Okay.
Gary, have you ever seen any other 300-foot requirement, or is that unique to Morgan?
Nowadays, pretty unique to Morgan.
Okay.
Because most of them have come into conformity with the state law that's
State.
required.
Gotcha, I like
But
that.
what they discovered was most of the jurisdictions, the reason for the change was that most of the jurisdictions said, we send out a lot of letters. People don't read the letters as much as they do their emails, go to websites anymore. They do a lot of electronic investigation. But so more have just what the state code requires them.
Okay.
But there's nothing that prevents you if you find that there's a problem from adding that in the future.
Yeah.
And I like that it was brought up about you could add it, but I also like that the county, the city planning commission made a decision.
Yeah, they talked about it for what, Denise, Tony, over an hour, I
It was
think.
quite a long
Yeah,
discussion.
It was vetted. I was impressed with their discussion. Okay, that's all I had. And I appreciate you, everybody's willingness to hear the concern.
Let's go on to number 2. Amendment to Title 10, Chapter 1026 for the Morgan City Code regarding conditional uses to comport with state law changes. Does anybody, have you looked through this? Any discussion?
Just as Gary's told us before, it's dropping us in line with the state code. I think basically, Gary, if this is correct, prior to the change, we could deny at will what we wanted to, and the state code doesn't accept that anymore.
The conditional uses are interesting. I didn't mean.
They're generally permitted if the problems can be mitigated.
So what the state code hoped to do was to have elected officials take a careful look at their conditional uses to see if they really did want them into any area of the zone that it was designated for. And if you didn't, if there were circumstances where you think that they didn't fit, they wanted you to take them out. Also, they wanted more specific criteria for your consideration rather than just if it's in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare. And you guys think it was a good idea, then you can impose those conditions on a conditional use. And the developers became frustrated because they had some very exceptional requirements that have gone all the way up to the Supreme Court saying this is excessive, and it's a conditional use, but it's way excessive. So I like our ordinance because the way Wilf changed it was he indicated that essentially these criteria, the criteria that are listed in the conditional use section are the ones that you stick to, that you take a look at and carefully stick to. And that's important. That is extremely important because of the fact that total denial of a conditional use is saying that there's no way to mitigate the negative circumstance, no possible way to mitigate the negative circumstances. And there's hardly any situation that can't be mitigated somehow.
And that's exactly what I got out of the whole discussion was that word you just used, mitigate. Essentially what I think I heard Will saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you can mitigate the circumstance that's giving you some heartburn, then that's what you need to do somehow, correct? I mean, rather than just a flat, no, we can't. It's our responsibility to try and mitigate it. So
And that's why it's important to look at those uses to make sure that that's really what you want in there. Because
What was the recent, Gary, and maybe this was from our training, I don't remember, but the recent case out in the west side of the Salt Lake there, an established big company, it was already there, and a junkyard, I think it was, or car storage. Yeah, said we're going to, what was the company?
it's a salvage yard, wasn't it?
Salvage Yard said we want to come in, and the council said, no, you're not, because of just what you said, the health and general welfare and everything else. And, it didn't stand.
Right.
And as it turns out, I think the junkyard probably had a cleaner operation than, most hospitals. I don't know, but
Well, that's,
they
The
were
point
making an
is-
assumption that wasn't correct.
if you can figure out a place where you don't want it in that zone, then you better take it out. And that's what they were really encouraging you to do. But there was a Moab case too, which was another conditional use case. But there was a bed and breakfast that was going in. The neighbors were complaining about raising all kinds of issues. And so the council was bending over backwards to try and figure out a way to oppose the conditional use. And they required extensive parking requirements that were way and above what the rest of the neighbors were required to have. And they required that there be no smells coming from the outside of the home and that you only have 2 people go in a day and out. I mean, it's really exorbitant, and that got appealed and it got overturned by
The court.
the courts.
Yeah.
And so thank you for
Yeah.
considering this. I think that's a big.
Yeah, a good explanation. Yeah, I think that one probably works as is.
Any more discussion?
Viewed, I guess that was Will's work.
Yes,
Yeah, and you've looked at that too.
yes, thanks, Steve.
Okay, item 4. Planning Commission members, resolution 2212. So we've had a little bit of a
Yeah. Change.
adapting change and things to the planning commission. Resolution 2210, is there any discussion or?
Or 2210, the wastewater. 2212
golly.
is the.
Sorry. There we go. Let me get to it.
Yeah, is the planning commission. Yeah. No, I think that's a great group. I think the last one there, the Ray W. Little, brings a interesting dynamic to the whole event.
He'd have no idea what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
He's blocking us out.
I will comment, I had a chance to talk with Erin Bott, just met her in the store, and I had to smile a little bit because she said, I find it interesting that the city's looking to diversify and go from a white Mormon male to a white Mormon female as their way of diversification. I said, yeah, we're going out on the limb on that one. Yeah.
I say, we have had a female.
I served.
Was it Dorothy on there for a while?
Julie?
Dorothy Leachman, was she on?
Yeah, not when I was, but Julie
Anderson?
Anderson was there.
So it's not brand spanking new, but yeah.
No, it's a good.
By the way,
crew.
there was great enthusiasm for her to accept that.
Well, yeah, she seemed to be excited about it. She'll do a good job.
And Wes, bless his heart, he got voted to be the vice chair.
He
Okay.
was as excited about that as could be.
Yeah. So he extended to a 4-year term.
Well, so was his wife. She was pretty excited. Yeah.
You know, for the last 2 years, I didn't know Wes and Denise were related.
Oh, is that?
Yeah. So I asked him, stopped the whole meeting and I said, Wes, are you related to Denise?
That's good.
I had no clue.
What happened? Did she tell him to shut up or something in a public meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta move fast. Is any more discussion?
Now let's move forward.
Okay, possible land amendments to landscape requirements.
So I'll bring that up under administrative updates because I don't think it's on, it's
Not a
an agenda
resolution.
item, it's just a discussion.
Yeah.
Right, and then I have this, and I have the same concern under administrative updates. So I'll take that one then.
You got a note?
To
'Cause
take
I
that?
certainly won't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, I got my whole,
Okay. And training, I'm sorry, we get long-winded.
Again. Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. Business is important, so.
Any discussion though on the resolution 2213, purchase the property from the school?
that's a closed session.
Closed session.
Okay, that,
Closed session. You have a folder up on your.
fair enough. I drew from that folder for that. Good discussion.
Okay. Let's adjourn. Or move, whatever. Take your mic with you. Anybody need a break?
Ten days, I'll be. Saturday. At least you put in a good month. Different 4 months after that.
Right here, it'd be okay.
Is that 40 out of 66 in 2 months?
I'll let you know.
So
There you go.
probably are here.
That's okay. I want to be in it. I just couldn't, I was.
I call him a beggar for punishment. Yeah. So I just.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Will, now you can do all the things you wanted to do.
Welcome back. Huh?
Where we want that you're like a.
Go back up. Bring it on.
That's what I was, it took me a long time to say. That's what I.
No. We can in the street sometime to get cheers on the pipe and come home.
Just general starter.
All right.
When you get ready to make a comment, just put me that one there. Make sure you say your name. And if everybody wants to sit here, we need extra chairs.
You need to sign it.
Yes, I also need everyone to sign in. Sorry about that. You can go ahead and write your names.
Right.
Yeah, just write everybody.
I'll never be able to keep all the paperwork straight here tonight, for heaven's sakes. Huh? I've used up 3 reams here. I will. Did you tell him there's no excuse for?
Gary, how you doing? You bet.
How have you been?
Not too bad. Good. I just got back from Israel.
Really?
Which is really great.
They say that's pretty good trip. You were a little further than I just got back from, so. I just tell these guys, I just got back from Anaheim, Disneyland. It was 100 degrees there Friday. And I come back yesterday to this, so.
I bet you look forward to it.
Well, the 100 degrees last Thursday and Friday at Anaheim was a little too much, but now I kind of appreciate it a little more today.
How long?
You're in Israel. We're sitting on Shepherd's Mountain. Shepherd's first.
Okay.
Received visit. Spoke about sheep. Yeah, you would have been up there.
Was you on a tour?
Yeah, it was a really good. We had two CES, Dave Webb, and then we had Mike King and Mike Hyatt, who were 2 CES professors. They really did it.
Good.
2 times a month. Yeah, it was really good.
One day.
Other than one day, where we just missed being stabbed for 45 minutes. We went through the Muslim tunnel, which is called the Damascus Gate, where all the Palestinians come out to go to Jerusalem, to go to get the train. We left and we're sitting on the All these military vehicles, ambulances, like, nothing more was silent. And some guy just, it was, wow. Hadn't had that happen.
You got everybody on?
Did you ever feel unsafe or uncomfortable or?
Not really, not at all.
Can't remember, was he hit that man?
Yeah, I do.
Joey brought it.
Yeah.
Where is he?
So you hit tap that
You
mountain.
wanna come do this, Ray?
I'm a little hard-headed, you want
That's just an awkward thing for me, this thing.
Wrap that baby.
Welcome, everybody, to the Morgan City Council, April 12th, 2022. Just so everybody's aware, the way was, we usually have a work meeting, and discuss some of the things, so that we're a little bit late. Sorry about that. I've asked, what do we call a retired mayor?
Planning commissioner.
Planning commissioner now. I've asked him, Ray, if he would give the pledge, and I've asked Dave if he would offer an opening prayer.
Repeat me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Father in heaven, we're gathered before thee this evening as we begin the Morgan City council meeting. We're thankful for the opportunities we have to gather. We're thankful for the beautiful valley that we live in. This time we're appreciative of the moisture that's been given to us. We pray for the leaders of the world. We ask that they might be inspired to work towards peace and negotiation. We ask you to be with us tonight as we consider the affairs of the city, that decisions will be made that will benefit the members of our community. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to the consent agenda and approval of the minutes for March 8th, 2022, and for March, the work meeting of March 8th, 2022, and the council meeting of March 8th, 2022, and also the warrants from March 4th, 2022 to April 8th, 2022. Is there any discussion?
I've got a couple of questions, Mayor, on the
Warrants?
warrants. Look at that first. Maybe either Ty or Denise on the very first page, Clear Gov Inc. A total amount of 3,500. What is that?
That's new this year. It's a budget management software program. So we started that subscription. We upload all of our documents from the accounting system where it's all strictly numbers based. And then it helps you create a budget book. So I would type in the narrative of the goals and objectives and what each budget line, each budget category accomplishes. And then over time will help us. There's a high standard of budget award that's kind of the whole goal, is to achieve that highest level of standard in budgeting. And the software kind of year after year, you add to it, but it keeps what you have and then you build on it. And that's kind of the idea. And then it also produces the charts and graphs and I mentioned that before, that could potentially be, viewable or shared on the website. So that's what that annual subscription.
Okay, so the 35 is annual rather than monthly?
Yeah.
Okay. Page 5, the Napa Auto Parts, I've seen amounts for parts and so forth, but there's a $2,000 bill there. Right, the very first item.
On page 5. I'm trying to remember exactly what that one was, if it was I can look that one up.
Yeah, it seemed like just
Yeah, round amount.
it's a rounded up or rounded off amount.
So I can't remember if it was something for one of our new vehicles that we just got, because some of them came without options, or if it was a
But those would
replacement of an older.
be $400 checks.
No, so it's just 2,000 that just gets shared between different
Oh,
departments.
okay, yeah, the different general ledger accounts.
Yeah, or I'll look that up just to
Yeah,
see if it's
okay.
not just a monthly statement, or if it was a single purchase.
Okay, and then on page 6, just Polaris Methods, $2,700. Is that?
That's our accounting software. It's
Okay.
our that one's quarterly.
Okay. All right, that's all I had, Mayor.
Anybody else that has a discussion on it? Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I will make a motion that we approve of the minutes of the city council work meeting, March 8th, 2022. The minutes of the city council meeting, March 8th, 2022, and the warrants from March 4th, 2022 through April 8th, 2022.
Have a second.
I'll second that, Mayor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's move to our public comment. Welcome, by the way, everybody. Did everybody have a chance to sign in? Thank you. So is Robert Fair going to address us? Okay.
Nothing really new. I brought Jack with you so you can kind of meet him. But it's just my concern, since we haven't really addressed it before, because he's been kind of, Robert Fair, 70 North, 200 West. She told me to do that, but we haven't really addressed it before because they lived with us, and we've kept him confined to our backyard and the house. But with them moving across the street, that's kind of brought up concerns. And then I saw a sign down the street, so I thought, okay, let's see if that's an option. So that's why I'm addressing the council and you, Mayor, today to see if that's an option that can be done. So it's in your hands, I guess.
Could I ask what the sign was that you saw?
He just has autism, so I'm not sure what kind of sign can be done. It's maybe slow down or autistic child or something like that, just because when he gets mad and doesn't want to listen, he just jets across the street without looking, and we teach him every time we're with him, stop and look both ways. But when he gets mad and upset, he just shoots and doesn't.
Did you mention that you observed another sign of a?
Yeah, there's one down the street. It's a flashing sign that deaf child, I believe. So I didn't know if that was something like that, or I don't know.
Does the council have anything?
Anything for me,
Questions?
or what?
Ty, any comments on what we
Yeah,
could
so-
do or couldn't do?
Are there
Yes.
options?
So
The city manager?
Yeah.
So I'm the city manager. The question went to our road department to begin with and definitely want to do whatever we can to make our community safe. There's just no sign standard or a real good option. So the, well, there, not to say there's no good option, but as far as city specific signs, the reason why, so what it indicates to the driver, the precedence that's been set before. So deaf child in the area doesn't say at this home, it just says in the area. But what that does is it indicates to a driver that if there's children in the street, your
No, I'm
horns.
good. No, it's just, I got this ear nerve that shoots off and so it's.
I have that reaction from a lot of people when I start speaking.
Oh, you're rubbing
You're
off
not-
on me.
You're not the first.
Gets it
But-
from his wife.
But anyway, so like deaf child just means like if there is a child in the street, your horn isn't gonna necessarily alert them. If it's blind, then a blind person, it doesn't even have to be a child. It indicates something to the driver, not just that there's, driver should always be looking for anybody in the street
Right.
anytime, but there's an indicator, right? So the reason there's no standard for like autism is because there's such a broad spectrum of what that means. And it doesn't really tell anybody other than child at play or be careful. And
Right.
so as far as a city, there's really nothing, I had Lance go look at the standards in the street and didn't really come up with anything. The other thing is we're not allowed to put a sign that would target necessarily a home, it would say in the area.
Right.
And so like on my street, I know of three people with autism. Not all of them would be necessarily darting in the street, but it wouldn't really, there wouldn't be a place in town where you wouldn't have a sign, on that. So in my mind, the best solution, and people have done this because they have that option, is they have, you've seen the little signs that say
Yeah.
child and a flag or
Yeah.
anything you're allowed to do. You know what I mean? We could work with you on Park Strip sidewalk or whatever, just because that's the intent, right? Is just to slow down, be aware.
Just
Children
to
that-
slow down, be aware. So
Children
that's-
that play.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of like commercial, something in the, we could do that for a while, but that's something that you could do on your own. You could set them up and then if, they're out of town, you pull them back in or whatever. But to get the best outcome without, the other type of sign, I don't know that it really accomplishes what the whole goal is to make it safer. And so I would be more in supportive of signs on both sides of the street or even as close to the house as you want it. So it's that particular area.
Just right across the street. So it's
Yeah.
just being.
So on both sides of the street,
Yeah.
you could do something like that. And that's, you've probably seen areas in town where you've seen those too. Little children with a flag, signs, or just children at play. And that's the reason for that is because they've decided, hey, I'm tired of people, the speed limit is what the speed limit is.
Exactly.
But that just puts it a little bit more in your control and accomplishes more than what a plain street sign would do that really doesn't have a standard for it. So that's kind of where that's my thought process anyway.
So over by the laundromat, the cleaners,
Mhm.
across the street is the old Valley Implement Building, they call it. And I'm not sure if you've seen what Ty's alluding to, but they use that as a dance studio now, or
Right.
a dance shack. And I know that Kirsty, who runs it, gets pretty concerned because most of the parking is over in a vacant lot across the street.
Right.
And she does exactly what Ty is describing.
Yeah.
She has this little portable temporary sign that she puts up when she has dance classes in session. And from a personal perspective, I know if I'm driving up that street and I see that sign there, my mind quickly says, okay, there's little kids that are in this dance studio, it's in session, and they might dart out in front of that across the street to the car at any time. And it is it really does, it does help me. It reminds me to be kind of extra cautious at that particular time where I may not be if that sign is not there. So I think it's fairly effective, at least it is for me, but I'm just thinking of that was one example in the city where I know one of those signs is used. So, and I even forget what it says. I know it's yellow. I think yellow and red, and it says slow down, or I'm not sure exactly what it says, but yeah. So that's my thought.
Okay, but he's not really gonna grab a flag.
So there's,
I mean, okay, I'm sorry.
oh, I just say, no, that nobody takes a flag.
Okay,
The sign's portable.
Oh, okay.
The sign's in one place.
Each end of the
Yeah,
street.
yeah,
There's one just
yeah.
coming both ways.
Yeah,
Okay.
no one's grabbing a flag. So I'm
Okay.
sorry, I probably,
No.
did-
The sign has a little flag on it,
yeah.
okay,
right? So the sign is in the shape of a child holding a
Okay.
flag. And so it draws attention, and then, you know, not leaving it there also helps people not ignore it. So if it's in the day, take it down, or, you know, just draws attention, but you're also, there's no standard for that. So you could put rope lights on it, you could do battery charged
Solar.
flashing lights, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it could literally be way more effective than a city sign. So that's all I'm saying.
Have you seen anything out there commercially that could be available that would
um,
help with the problem?
she found a autistic sign online,
Uh-huh.
and we were thinking about putting that on like a cement brick.
Mhm.
So we're thinking about that, but I thought I'd come here first to see what the city could help with or whatnot. So
Yeah,
that's why I was,
I've also talked to Lance, who's over our roads
Mhm.
kind of thing. And we couldn't find, and Gary, maybe you can help me on this, but we couldn't find an official state autism sign.
right,
And in fact, the wording was kind of harsh that they didn't recognize that. And they don't have a blind child sign, or they don't have a deaf child sign, as far as that is approved by
state.
adopted by the
Okay.
state.
OSHA standards, yeah.
Yeah. But we have discussed it
Right,
a bunch.
right.
And I think what Ty's explained is probably the most effective way.
Mhm.
Is there any?
Just one other real quick comment. Somebody just alluded to it. I don't know who it was. Sometimes if people are like I am, if something becomes part of the scenery,
Yeah.
I don't notice it. I mean, after a while, I just don't
Yeah.
notice it. Where it's taken down and put back up, like the example I used, for some reason, I pay far more attention to that. And I guess I notice it because it isn't there all the time. So, but that's, I don't know if most people are like that, but for
I
me,
mean, yeah, while he's in school, it won't be there, but.
right, or at night, you know,
Yeah, at night.
at night and when he's in the house and in
Yeah.
bed. So, I mean, you know, just something to think about because it just,
And I've experienced that in my son's neighborhood. There's a sign that they roll out, and it's the one with the child holding a flag.
Mhm.
And it moves in and out different times when I happen to travel that
Okay.
road. And it is effective.
So it's like a motorized, the child moves out when there's traffic coming, is that what you're saying, or?
No, they bring it from their house to the street,
Oh, okay,
kind of thing.
okay,
Like, but if the child's in school or
Yeah.
asleep, then they roll it back in.
You know, could you use one of those signs and adopt it to the autism? I mean, it seems like we're wanting to accomplish the same thing, and that's
Yeah.
to get people to be aware and to
Right.
slow down.
Yeah.
Whether it's deaf or autistic, I
Yeah.
think,
well, she found an autism sign, but it's kind of like that, so it's kind of small, but it's not larger, but
Is it yellow?
yeah, it is yellow,
yeah, I see some of that chartreuse color, the
yeah,
green color.
right,
It'd probably have a similar effect.
Okay.
And, you know, working with Ty, he'll help you on where it could go or
Okay.
shouldn't go
Well,
or
I got Dennis,
should go.
like he can go, he's my next door neighbor to the south. And that's like we can do it in his yard, and Joni Cox is
Okay.
across from us, so it's like it can go in her yard, so it's like this,
Yeah,
so it's
they-
not directly across, but it's right
They
there, so,
Bought into the concept,
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
like. Wonderful.
so,
Yeah, let's make it as safe as we can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
okay. Okay,
And we'll have discussions on, to place that out into the city right away kind of
okay,
thing.
yeah,
We'll be discussing that further here.
okay. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we already got one sign and a pole, and we're thinking about putting it in one of those cement blocks for a foundation for decks. So we're gonna post it in that and do it that way, so it's kind of, won't move, but it's movable, so in and out, so yeah, we'll do
Okay.
that. Okay,
We want you to know we're for helping.
Okay.
and especially in this situation. And so
Okay.
we'll be discussing it
Okay.
and we'll get back to you.
yeah, like I said, my only concern was having them move across the street, so I was trying to
Right.
figure out something for him.
Yep.
So if you guys can think of something that would help just as a little bit better, that would be great too. So you can let me know, or,
Like I can tell you right now, we have our roads manager checking all kinds of things for us.
okay, thank you.
Well, and thanks for bringing him to help sing the national anthem after the play.
right.
That's awesome. Oh, that's great. So thanks for letting you be part of this. Yeah.
You want to put him on the spotlight and have him sing it to us?
Yeah,
Would that-
We could pick up what he was singing. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
I do have another engagement. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
No, you're. fine.
Thanks for being here.
What's your boy's name?
Jack.
Jack? Okay, well, we're waiting for Jack. I failed to excuse Eric, who won't be here tonight. Not on Zoom, so.
He may not want to come back in. He's
Yeah.
outside the snow. We get it. Hey, does he want to stand up here so he can see himself? Come right up here, Jack. Come stand right here and you can see yourself.
Look on the TV, you're on TV.
So if you look right there, can you see a wave?
You see yourself? Look, wave at yourself. Wave at yourself. Wave at yourself.
There you go. See him way up there. You're right here too. You're on lots of them.
Yeah. Sick. Oh, yeah. Look. Gonna zoom in? Okay.
There you go.
You see yourself?
Can you see you right there? And up on the big one.
Okay, there we are.
Say hi.
How about that?
You see the Star Spangled Banner? Sing. I was singing but you can't. Was the
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
High five and knuckle.
Come on, for me.
High five and knuckle.
What a knuckle.
Punch it. Punch it.
Thanks for coming tonight, Jack.
Okay. Can you say you're welcome? Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moved. Okay, our good man Clark has a presentation.
A shameless plug. Gonna admit to it anyway. So we are members of IPSA. And basically that's the group that takes care of our apprenticeships, but they also take care of our safety. So each year we report in how many hours your utility has worked, depending on your size. And of course, we're in Group B, which is 8,000 hours to 30,000 hours, which basically is how many employees you have. With us, we're going with the 4 based on 2,000 hours a year, something to that effect. And anyway, each year they recognize the utilities and how they've done. And it's a great way for accounting and for you to be able to review where you're at on your safety and how everything's going. And then of course they offer you the plaques to kind of remind you and see how many hours. Many times we're kind of being involved with this, we see when you do have accidents or whatever, you have to classify them and put what group they're in and what the event was or what happened. And then you don't get first place, you get second or third or something like that. So anyway, it's a way of recognizing folks have done it. And I just want to recognize our guys. They've stayed busy, put the time in, they follow procedures, have taken their training seriously. And then of course, at the end of the year, they get recognized for it through this organization. And they've done a really good job, and we didn't have any accidents as we've done really good throughout the whole city. I mean, this is specifically for the power department, but across the board, the city has been really good about watching. The employees have been really good about watching what they're doing, and Ty's supported us in our safety meetings, and we just had one of our guys go some more OSHA training. So anyway, they're doing a good job. And they do what they're supposed to do. So appreciate that and appreciate the support everybody gives us. And we just hang this on the wall, and then hopefully we do the same thing again, because we'd much rather have this than the alternatives. So anyway, appreciate your support for that.
But that doesn't say second place. What place does that?
Then it's first. We got first. So yes.
How many are on the wall right now, Clark?
Right now we have 19, 20, and 21. It goes back to 2011, and I think it's just because if you don't file the paperwork, you just don't get recognized. But they had a really good safety record before that too.
The association is national in scope, or is it a state?
No, this group is the group that you work with the Department of Labor, and the Intermountain Power Superintendent Association is our representative group that deals with all the apprentices throughout pretty much all the municipalities, co-ops. Most of your investor-owned utilities have their own organization, and they work with that. We're basically a non-union union is basically what it is.
Okay.
And we support them, and thank you for supporting it. Morgan City, we have dues and stuff we have to pay, meetings that we attend, and thank you for letting me attend those and take care of that. But it is an organization that's pretty much within the state of Utah. We have some guys, we also reach down to Overton, Nevada, and we have some guys coming out of Idaho. So we work in conjunction with a lot of the other acronymical words, you know. But anyway, it's a good group.
Yeah, tell them congratulations.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
Thank you.
Well,
Appreciate
it's
that.
well deserved and good recognition. So
Yeah, they
Send
do a
that-
good job of
send
that.
that report
I
back.
wanted to bring the limelight kind of on you that as a superintendent for the Morgan City Power, you take the time to make sure they're getting trained, make sure they're up to date and things like that. But I've personally observed them at work, and they do. They do watch out if they're on the ladder truck. They do everything, you know, they go through
Well,
the
thank you.
steps. And that's reflective of what you've taught them and moved your emotions or your passions or your expertise to help them. And so we thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you.
They do that even at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Tell them, nice job the other day.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we let them know. We let them know. Yeah, they've been really good. You know, the personal protective equipment, especially with electrical, is pretty critical, and we drilled that, you know, all the way through in the apprenticeship, which we've had some younger guys working with us, and they'll get to the beauty of an apprenticeship is the old guys get to teach the new guys. And so it makes them kind of review and see what the crap they're, you know, what they're perpetuating. So it's a good organization and, you know, it holds everybody to a little higher standard.
There's a lot of beauty to an apprentice that's getting trained correctly.
Exactly. Yep. And these guys, they've done a good job. So,
Do they have a good annual conference?
yes. Yeah, it was good. It went quite smoothly. Politics were a little bit rough, but we got through it.
Right on.
I guess the main consideration is that everyone goes home at night, you know, safely.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
but-
Yeah.
But there's also a financial consideration as well, you know, by not having accidents at the workplace. And so that's a part of it as well. So that's certainly appreciative of that. And one other question, do you get many visits from OSHA? Or do they inspect quite often, or yes, no, or?
You know, typically they're going to show up when you have problems.
Yeah, they don't.
You know, we do have an organization with URS, I believe, with certain inspectors that they'll come around and they help us out. And particularly it's, you know, like I say, with finances, it's dealing with insurance and what have you, because they have requirements they want us to meet and things that they'll suggest that we do different, mostly in your you know, the way your operation's running, whether it's your setup or whether it's, you know, how you're storing things and to that nature.
The reason I asked that question is because where I just retired from, we were under the jurisdiction of MSHA.
Oh, okay.
And MSHA is probably a little more proactive, but the bottom line is if you're pretty safe and you have a pretty good record, they tend to keep away from you a little bit more than if you're a problem child, so to speak, and you know you have a lot of accidents and trouble. So that's another consideration as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
Yes.
We did have a full OSHA audit 3 years ago. It was before Clark got here, but that was kind of something the state had been pushing because municipalities haven't been necessarily on the
watch list.
on the radar. And so we did come through, get a whole report. We had findings and reported back.
Mm.
But as good as that was, it didn't really have anything to do with operational, right? Like the way that our guys use their own personal equipment or the way that and that's what this group really focuses on. It was strictly facilities, equipment, plans and procedures, your safety data sheets, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even after that whole audit, there's still a culture and a training element that we should be super proud of. So
Absolutely. Yeah. It does become a culture. It really does.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
again, I'm sorry, but I look back on my 40 years I spent up at the cement plant, and I think about safety that was going on, or lack of safety that was going on 40 years ago, and how far we'd come in 40. And it's just a culture that you develop where you just, you look out after each other, you have each other's back, you know. And so it's definitely a good culture to develop, that's for sure, so.
Yeah, and like you say, both the personnel and the financial costs of something different is astronomical.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Clark.
Appreciate your support.
Okay, do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion, Mayor, to go into a public hearing.
Second.
Can we address both of them in the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
In one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mean the A and the B? Okay, that's what I thought, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. As you can see, Denise fixed me an incredible little 3-ring binder to help me get through this stuff. So I appreciate that, Denise. So under A, amendment to Title 10, Chapter 10-08, Sections 10-08-030 and 10-08-040 of the Morgan City Code regarding notice and public hearing provisions of the Land Use Code to comport with state law changes, ordinance 2203, which I think had a pretty good discussion in our work meeting. Is there any further discussion or comments?
Any public input, Denise, from
No,
electronic? Okay.
no one's on Zoom.
No one's on Zoom.
Well,
This one had to come to city council as a public hearing because this one was prior to, right? Okay.
This
This is the last.
this will change it.
okay, well, I can make a comment, right, as a mayor? I can do that.
You sure can.
I liked what was said in the work meeting, that this kind of moves us to the state code. And we also, in the future, if there's a problem, we can amend this and bring back whatever we need to that way. Is that the way everybody else understood it?
Yes. Living document.
Okay. I think we can move on to B also.
Do you want to take a vote on that?
We have to do it
In the public
next
meeting,
week?
got to close.
Public,
You're okay. What you can do is you can vote on this one and then move to the next one and still remain in the public hearing.
Without coming out. Okay, I didn't know
And at the very
procedurally what the
end-
process was.
At the very end, just close the public hearing. So
Move on. Okay.
that's okay. Speed.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd move to approve amendment to Title 10, Chapter 10.08, Sections 10.080.030 and 10.08.040 of the Morgan City Code regarding notice of public hearing provisions of the Land Use Code to comport with state law changes. Ordinance 22-03.
second it.
Is there any more discussion? Jeffrey,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Okay, the vote's unanimous. Okay. Amendment to Title 10, Chapter 10.26 of the Morgan City Code regarding conditional uses to comport with state law changes, ordinance 2207. We also discussed this in our work meeting. And is there any more discussion?
And I guess if people come look at this, they can look at our notes from the work session as well as what was discussed, because we had a great discussion and Dave brought up some good points that we looked at. And so, you know, like I say, it always feels uncomfortable that we just roll through this, but reference
Nobody has
the work
anything to
meeting,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to just note, even if we do it with each meeting, that it's been vetted
did
and
this- talk
adequately
through this.
discussed, right?
Sure.
We don't have any viewers, but regardless of that,
Somebody may look at the proceedings
Come
afterwards.
back and look afterwards through the minutes and stuff, and to reference both of them.
Well, having said that, I will make a motion that we approve or adopt amendment to Title 10, Chapter 10-26 of the Morgan City Code regarding conditional uses to comport with state law changes, ordinance 22-07.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Close the public.
okay, we've had a motion.
Do I need to do that?
Close the public hearing.
All at the same time.
We need to vote first.
And we can vote to,
You can do both at the same time if you wish,
Okay.
or you can do them separately. It really doesn't.
And close the public hearing. I'll add that to my motion.
Second.
Jeff will second it.
Tony motion and Jeffrey second,
To approve and close.
to approve and close amendment to Title 10, Chapter 10.08, Sections 10.08, 0.030, and 10.08.
Oh, the next one down, Mayor, we're on B.
Oh, sorry. On B, we've already done A. Amendment to Title 10, Chapter 10.26 of the Morgan City Code regarding conditional uses to comport with state law changes, ordinance 2207. Jeffrey,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Yeah, the vote's unanimous.
We're back. Public meeting.
Did you say I have to close that now?
No, it's
I just
done.
did that.
We're done.
I don't need to use this.
Oh, we'd all walk out if you did.
I'm glad the vote passed. Because had the vote failed and you just denied yourself coming out of a public hearing, we would have been stuck.
We'd be here for a while.
Impasse.
That was a method in my conversation.
4 in the morning, we may realize that it didn't work.
Okay, let's go to the active agenda, which we, this is the same, let me look, make sure I'm not off base.
Municipal wastewater.
Yes, the municipal wastewater planning program. Report of 2021, resolution 2210. Any discussions?
Well, again, we perused this pretty carefully during our work session, so unlike Jeffrey, sometimes it feels a little uncomfortable that we act like we just rubber stamping everything, but yeah, we spent some time with this during our work session.
And then Kale was here to present it and do his.
Answered some questions
Thank you.
for us, so yeah.
We also found out that the improvements that are happening there are just not happening because there's no pipe.
Delay issues.
I might mention that this is an annual report that we're required to fill out every year, so.
Is there any more comments?
Mayor, I'd move that we approve the municipal wastewater planning program, 2021 annual report, resolution 22-10.
You have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
We have a motion from Dave and a second from Jeffrey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Votes unanimous. Okay, Ty.
The planning commission?
Oh,
One more,
heck,
good.
yeah. Thank you, Tony.
It's all right.
Raised impatient all night.
And I'm gonna try not to call anybody back from the dead on this.
Yeah. That'll be your legacy, Steve.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet him on the other
Yeah.
side.
There's worse things you've done, right?
Okay, appointment of planning commission members, resolution 2212. Let me get there.
So Mayor, question. So Wes is a member for a 4-year term. Aaron Bott is a member for a 2-year term. And Ray Little will be an alternate member for a 4-year term, correct?
Correct. Wes was a 2-year term, which I'm not even sure. He was probably getting close to that. But he,
Just got put back.
okay,
Put back.
okay. So he was voted to be the assistant chair,
Vice Chair.
vice chair, sorry. And so he's nodded his head in the up and down movement to take on a 4-year term. Erin Bott, I believe we talked about this and she was very enthusiastic about it. And she'll be coming on for a 2-year term. And then we have our mayor, who's going to be an alternate member of the city planning commission for a 4-year term. And we very much appreciate his willingness to continue to serve the city. Are you going for a 40-year
You want
public
that
service or?
40-year pin, right? Yeah.
Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay,
I will make a motion that we adopt resolution 2212. It's a resolution appointing individuals to the planning commission, receiving the advice and consent of the city council. Those appointments would be Wes Woods as a member for a 4-year term, Aaron Bott as a member for a 2-year term, and Ray W. Little as an alternate member for a 4-year term.
I'll second it, Mayor, and note that Wes and Denise are related.
that's good. Okay. Tony made a motion. It was seconded by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Vote was unanimous. Okay, now, Ty, been excited for you to get on this.
Denise, did you just say you and Wes don't have any conflicts? That's incredible. Anyway, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you do it?
Please.
Huh? He just listens to whatever you say, right? Just does
Yeah.
whatever you tell him. Right on.
Okay, I'll just try and burn through my list, and if you have any follow-up questions, let me know. I'd like to start by thanking David for the review of our warrants. That was a discrepancy. It was the right invoice, but the wrong name, which happens sometimes when you enter them in, and when I review them, I'm looking at the coding, which was the right coding. I just didn't notice that it was Napa. So that was actually Gary Crane's payment. So if you get a check made out to Napa, we'll write you.
Will you fix my car, Gary? I've got some trouble.
We'll write you a new one.
You change oil?
So that's why I said professional services. And anyway, when they're doing invoices and they go to the next one, sometimes the vendor stays in the wrong spot. So that's, but it was April 5th. So I think we have time to maybe rectify that. If not, Gary, now you have a heads up.
You have to give your check back.
I'll say, what's this good for?
Yeah. Would the check have been made out to Napa?
Because it just had the wrong vendor name. Everything else was,
We haven't sent it out yet.
I don't think so. We'll find out for sure.
Keep on the alert there, Gary.
Yeah, I emailed Wanda too, so it's.
Oh, you're gonna ruin her vacation.
No, she won't check her email till she gets back. That's why I didn't text her,
Yeah, she better
because then
not.
she'd be stewing about it, and she's like, I don't have my computer, so I
Yeah, you
I
know what
emailed her.
you're
She'll
doing.
fix it when she gets back. Anyway. So we're getting ready to put out an RFP for garbage service. The service or the contract ends in June, end of June. Robinson Waste currently has that. That's a joint contract with the county. So we're just, I have my draft of the RFP ready. We're just going to review that with the county and then send it back. So Tony, if you want to take a look at it or whatnot, but, anyway, right now we're just putting out the RFP, so
Okay.
we'll see what we get
See what
as far
comes
as
up.
response, then we'll bring Tony and the committee together to review those. Yes. We gotta just check with them. So it'd be nice if they advertise it since we did all the document work, but we just haven't got a hold of their commissioner yet that's over that department.
Michael Newton.
Mhm. Yeah, but Stephanie and the staff, we've drawn up a pretty good RFP. I think we borrowed from one I liked from a different city, so it was a good starting point. The PHP numbers are in. We'll do that at the next meeting when the cost of healthcare went up about 5.8%, which was about the same as last year. So in the context of everything else that's going on in the world, it's nice that healthcare is there. And then
Good news.
and then the retirement, so the city's portion of the retirement contribution to URS went down just a little bit, because that fund is doing well. So
It was
Would that be
doing well.
based, would some of that be based on what sort of return they're getting on their
Yep.
investments and that type of thing?
that and numbers of employees contributing versus number growing. And because they changed the retirement schedule, 10 years ago or more, then it's kind of floated the other direction now. So it's nice that we have a healthy retirement system.
Does it offset the increased cost of the medical insurance?
No, it's not that much. It's not that much less, but it helps. Yeah. Yeah. Then we're also just initiated a traffic study just so the intersection that goes into Pheasant Run. Yeah, it's like 525, but I don't remember this other street right now. We had just a resident want to maybe switch the stop. Yeah, the stop sign. And so we're just having that studied so we get a good traffic count. And I'll also look into the future to get a recommendation on which direction we go. Whether it's go to a four-way stop or switch, so that we have the notice requirements and we follow all of the correct procedures. So that at least we have that answer, but it's different. It's definitely a different traffic pattern, but what's actually happening in the intersection is just the best way to know that is by studying the traffic count.
Have
So,
there been accidents?
just some people that aren't used to.
There was one accident.
Oh, was there? Yeah.
But it was a texting to run through the stop.
Yeah, not because of the configuration.
So how does that work, Ty? If we see something that a traffic sign in the city that we think doesn't make sense for some reason, do we just bring that to someone's attention and say, is this?
Yeah, just,
And I don't know I don't know if this would be UDOT or not. It's the one as you're coming down from the hitching post and coming onto Commercial Street, the new road we're gonna do that goes up to the fairgrounds.
on Commercial
That's a
Street.
stop sign right there. And I don't think there's one person and 100 people that stop at that because the traffic's fairly light, going down past Commercial Street over to the fairgrounds, other than maybe a week a year. But I've often thought that ought to just be a yield sign there.
Yeah, we can,
I mean,
and the intersection's so huge.
and the reason
You
I bring
see
that
forever
up
before you even,
is if we don't, I'm gonna get a ticket there. So anyway, but no, I mean, I just don't think many people, to me, it makes more sense to have a yield sign there than a stop sign, but that's just one of them.
yeah, no, we'll look at it.
You probably don't want to do anything until the bridge is done.
Well, yeah, and the
And that
flow,
will
the
change.
traffic
That
pattern will change.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we do when we hear concern. We just like to, just have it studied, and then we have a basis on what we made the decision instead of just what our perception is of number and they.
It was
So-
eye-opening to me, because if you just change the sign, like say at Scotts Drive and turn it the other way, without the study, then people, I guess, Gary, they actually can say, well, you changed that and I'm in the habit of not
Yes.
stopping.
Or somebody died and it was your fault.
Yeah, so Lance looked that up and that's where that study came from, is that we aren't actually accountable for if it's been this way for 50 years and it changes another way to observe how we're driving, I guess.
As long as it's supported wisely with a study,
By the study.
yeah, and, or according to a national standard. AASHTO is usually the standard that they use, but the study really helps.
Yeah, and then the standards, basically the notice, right? And the other, so hey, change in traffic sign ahead or whatever, that you're alerting people that the sign that you think is there is no longer there, just that sort of thing. So,
I think there's another area that to me that potentially is fairly hazardous in the city, and that is, I think, Rachel, the North Morgan Hill, where 700 East or 600 East, whatever you want to call it, intersects with State Street up at the top of the hill. As I recall, that's been switched back and forth a couple of times. What concerns me is that those few homes that are above 600 East up on the hill there, those 4 or 5 homes right there, they are through. That's they're through traffic. And I think people don't think to look up that way, and so I don't know. It always seemed to me like the through street should be 600 or 700 East. And the stop sign should be placed the other way, but that's just my.
Well, I remember when they changed it that
Yeah.
way. It was incredibly hard
Yeah,
to get started for the big trucks and such.
yeah, and
on
it
the
still
uphill.
would be, that would still be an issue, but
But I also know, because I live down that road and some of the residents that live up there, they almost want to look for an accident because nobody's looking.
nobody's looking. I guess maybe I just mentioned it, if they're gonna do a traffic study, I would be just curious to see what maybe their thought is at that at that intersection.
and we only, so it's not real expensive to do one intersection. We're not doing a full traffic or a full city traffic study, but if we do have a concern like the 2 that you just mentioned, then I think we don't have any problem having them looked at, you know what I mean?
Maybe I'm the only one that has a concern with that one up there in North
Well,
Morgan.
no, I think most people just, that's one of the things, like we have a subdivision which changed the traffic pattern and that's what raised the issue and sounds like an accident happened, right? So instead of waiting for an accident, it's just instead of just saying, well, it's always been this way, this is the way we drive here. There's no harm in saying, hey, is this the right
Most of the rock trucks,
way to,
they're going down the frontage road and coming back that way.
yeah.
I understand in the wintertime, if that road got a little slick and you're required to stop, there might be. But I know personal experience, sometimes nobody looks up to that,
Yeah,
up to those 4 or 5 homes up the,
Yeah,
the
and they-
hill.
yeah.
So that's,
They could maybe even just stop on the way down, but not on the way through it.
Anyway, just a thought.
that's the way it was before. I mean, go back, why did we change it to the way it is now?
Well,
You remember, Ray?
it's the way it is now
Yeah, I remember.
for 100 years and they changed it.
No, the way it is now has been a change within the last, say, 10 years.
It's always
Before-
been this, other than that slight.
Nope, no.
No, there was a period where
No, I remember the conversation.
the hill was the
I
stop sign.
remember the conversation when it was changed.
Okay,
Yeah. Deor Peterson, one of our council members,
okay.
wanted to make that. I see Ray nodding his head. So yes, it was one of the council members at the time that requested that change be made.
But I've been
Interesting.
turning down that road for 30 years. Am I not seeing the sign in the right?
Yeah, you've probably broken the law. No, it was just the opposite.
I remember it being the opposite,
Right.
but just for a short period of time.
Anyway, that's our
Well,
approach now.
Ray's got a
So if there's
comment.
concern, we just
go ahead, Ray.
Half that road you don't. To the border, you got road.
the end of State Street, yeah.
Yeah.
So with that history, that used to be the old main highway through the country, short in town. Used to be flashing red and yellow light there. Straight through the flashing many years ago.
Mhm.
I was right, the councilman had a whim, that's why. That's why.
So now Tony has the whim.
Good company, though.
A good study, I think it'd be appropriate for that intersection. There's people I know living there, there's people coming from down, Mary Gale's place coming through. They don't see the stop sign when it's clear down off the side of the road, they be able to do that pretty fast speed. Everybody thought lucky we haven't had them. We talked before about other signs in the road, what paint on the road, whatever. And you just needs to weigh in on that.
Yeah.
I'd be just curious to see what a traffic study would come up with, that's just.
Well, you brought it up, so if there's an accident now, it's your fault.
I'm just surprised somebody hasn't got T-boned with a car coming down the hill from.
Yeah, that's.
From like
Don't
that,
mention it.
well, Pincock's live there now and Rob Becker, yeah, I mean,
They can bail down to get air, they can do that intersection.
I remember when Clay Wilkinson lived in that house, and there was a time or two that, yeah.
He won't stop. He wouldn't have stopped.
We good?
Yeah.
Good on that? Okay. So just a couple updates. So our basement project is underway. The plumbing and the floors been put in for the new restrooms, and water to the exam rooms and stuff has all been done. They're just starting the studs now, putting in the metal studs. We've had some dust and smells issues while the project's going down, especially for Denise. She has respiratory issues and she's had to go home at least one day. They do have a vent. So it's the first day they didn't have the air vented. Things are taped up. So they're trying their best, but just like today, they just used some varnish that wasn't even, just over some chalk lines, and it came straight through. We got it aired out pretty fast, but there might be a time when we shut the city office down temporarily. We'll just put a sign that says, because you can still pay online. Our phones everybody can work from home and be tied right into the, we're going to avoid that if possible.
Is that what happened today?
We didn't shut down. We just had fumes that we aired out. Yeah, but I'm just saying, if it's something that's prolonged and just because of the nature of the construction, there's no way to avoid it.
Yeah.
Like, for a extended period of time or whatnot, then we just need to be sensitive of that. If it's just not a good environment we've shut off the air handlers, so pending the weather, that's an okay thing to do earlier, but we're just trying to balance that, get the project done, not hold up the project, and then just keep the air clean. So you had a comment, Denise?
I was just gonna say that Adams Construction's given us a list, and so if they're doing something one day, maybe an issue then.
Yeah, well, and the others, so the big challenge is I can't smell a thing, so I'm the last guy I'm like the yellow canary, so if I tip over, it's not safe to go beyond my body. Just leave me right there and go the other way, so. Anyway, what's that?
You're the canary in the mine.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's, of course, it takes a long time for a big canary to kill over, so send me in to see if it's safe. Then the depot project's underway. That's going well. I did mention that we found, I think I mentioned last time that there was asbestos. Maybe I didn't mention that.
I don't remember.
Anyway, the attic is full of asbestos, and then the insulation around the pipe. So we got bids back today on the remediation of that, and so we're going to have a change order. I've authorized that just to get it all taken care of all at the same time. It won't slow up the project, so there's other stuff going on, and because it's a removal activity, they'll be able to remove it before any of the new construction even starts. So it's not going to delay the time. It'll just be probably about $42,000 more. But the way that the project's going is finding cost savings, and they're really doing a good job of balancing decisions in order to just stretch the budget to occupancy, which is our main goal. And I think with the design, we're going to be left with we'll get a lot of design elements that we can do at a later date, like landscaping and, outside facade stuff, or, something that really doesn't hinder the occupancy, but just to kind of let you know where that project's going. They're going to start demo pretty soon here because they can take out all the concrete and all the pavers on the outside of the building while they're still working on the design. They're going to bid that out and have that work done while the inside's still being designed. So it's good.
I know asbestos removal is expensive.
Yeah.
Expensive.
Yeah. And, the total estimate or the bid that they got back was all included was about 42,000. But the way everything else goes, it's well worth getting it all just handled so we don't ever address it. And this is probably the best time to do it where we don't have anybody in there. Or
where's everybody gonna take their pictures when you start all the concrete removal?
probably right in front of the trucks. Trucks are cool
By
too.
the caboose.
Oh, the caboose,
By
yeah.
the caboose.
Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of where that's at. They've had a couple designs. One thing is they are entertaining maybe some donations for concrete, some materials and stuff like that. We haven't really talked about accepting just community donations to help the project along because we don't have anything set up as far as how that gets handled. If someone makes a donation or whatnot, we haven't really talked about that, but the Historic Society seems to, the committee seems to think that there would be some people interested in.
You approached Holcim?
Yeah. So we're looking for that, right? So the Holcim or Geneva or,
Working with Geneva?
yeah, just to see if there's one of those local companies because a lot of cost in concrete.
So Ty, you remember back when we were considering the bids, concrete was one of the line items that had the biggest discrepancy among the different bidders. Did we miss something or did they miss something? I mean, it was
No.
significantly more in the tens of thousands, even if it seems like, if I
Yeah.
remember, more than 100.
No, a lot of that was because they were all ballparking and because they didn't have a design. So right now, the engineers are trying to design the best design to use the least amount of concrete. So take advantage of whatever elevation that they can. And we didn't really, because we didn't have the firm design, and that's what they're trying to come up with now. So they get solid bids on concrete as subcontractors. And so we'll see how that.
Is it better to wait for the firm design before you bid?
Yeah, we're almost done with that part so that they can get a bid on concrete. So everything wasn't bid out with subs. It was overall, and they're working within that budget. So if they save money on concrete based on the bid, it just goes into other elements that are needed. So we're going to have more needs than that budget allows in the building. And so if they get a donation for the material, it just goes further into the project.
I mean, right now, you're not worried that we don't have money to complete the project.
No, we have enough money to get it to occupancy for sure, but that's the goal. And that's what the deliverable was. So when we met with them on our pre-construction meeting, then that's what I kind of wrote into the thing is occupancy is the goal. So they don't leave us this far away from somebody being able to occupy the building. And then,
Yeah, good work.
whatever looks nice or, preserve something, it just needs to at least be
Yeah.
occupiable. So
That's Rachel's department,
Yeah.
whether it looks nice or
Yeah, no, it's coming. But anyway, you'll probably see some demo work here in the next couple of weeks, just so you're aware. The sprinkler system at the park is done. We got it done before winter.
not. Which winter?
Yeah, here we thought, hey, we're off to a slow start. This is gonna be a spring project, but anyway, that went smooth. That was,
They got on that in a hurry, didn't they?
yeah, and got it done they got it all tested, all their pressure testing, all the zones, and really did a good job. You know, we overseeded right before it snowed. So that, I'm pretty pleased with that. So we're just waiting for
That's not secondary water. That's primary water. That waters that.
so it's a well. So it's not culinary water and it's not secondary water. It's our own untreated irrigation well
Gotcha.
at the park.
Okay. I remember that.
So kind of right in between
Yeah.
in between the two.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that now. That you said it.
Yeah,
So the splash pad, if it ever gets activated, is that?
that's culinary water. It has to be culinary water to have people.
Secondary, every kid in Morgan County to have Giardia.
Yeah.
So
So
before you leave the park, I have two quick questions.
Okay.
The basketball standard that Dave Bader talked about one day, are we still going to install that?
Mhm.
Okay. Then the other was, are we still planning on moving the chlorination building down on that end of the park or?
Mhm.
Okay. Is it-
Yeah, and that the sprinkler system was designed for that so that we won't be disrupting the sprinkler system to come out, but it's not a project that we've put out for bid or we're still,
But that's the well that we're using.
that's to bring a culinary well back online.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So part of what's going on there is still hunting for grant dollars. So we have like 4 water projects. We put in for ARPA money. I just went to a water conference and found out where the state had allocated, which agencies got, which allotment of those additional funds. So it's just putting together some grant applications. The water department budget is, probably it's the worst off currently. And so what I've done is just kind of put those projects in a similar priority. And if one gets funded, that's my flag to pull the trigger on it. Yeah, even dollar amount, right? Like if it's any grant dollars we can get, even if it's a 50% match, is a really good time to get it done. There's a lot of money out there right now, so we're just working on that applications and
I guess it would be that benefit to have that well capable of producing culinary water, I guess, right?
yeah, they produce some. Anyway, we got some other projects in the works, so we haven't pulled the trigger on that one yet, but that's still planned for.
It's on the radar.
Yep, on the capital improvements list. Anything else at the park?
Basketball standard and.
Yep, okay.
That was it.
Awesome. We had the pre-construction meeting on the Commercial Street realignment, so they're gonna get started on that project April 18th. So Monday, I think it's a Monday, the 18th. That meeting went well. There's some utilities that need to be relocated and stuff like that. And then anyway, they're gonna keep that road open. So the nice thing is because it's getting realigned, the old road for the most part is gonna be available for most of the construction of the new road. So we will have some impact to traffic when they tie in and do some utility work to relocate some utilities. They'll have to route around, but they'll keep that open. So then we also had the grant meeting for the sidewalk project. So UDOT's sending me those agreements it'll tie the Safe Route to Schools grant and the contingency funds that we just received. And basically turn that entire thing into one project. It's already one project for the contractor, but for financial reasons, they put the same PIN number on it at UDOT, so we can submit all of our costs on that sidewalk project. So that's working well. I'm pretty pleased with that.
Speaking of the bridge project, sorry, speaking of the bridge project,
That we weren't talking about, but you brought it up, so we'll talk about the bridge project now.
coinciding with the traffic study, would it make sense to convert that frontage road back to a two-way street? Two-way road, I should say.
Small off the freeway.
Mhm.
Hey.
It would take, I mean, what it would do, it would take all those rock trucks off of 600 East or 700 East. It would put them coming and going on that frontage road. And then with the bridge project, it would allow the buses and that to access that road as well. So
Same thing. I think we just have an engineer look at it, because the other thing is when they're coming at the end of that street, it creates kind of a little S-curve situation that, if you have a truck that's turning to go under back onto the overpass, they don't really have enough room to get out of the right lane. So if they get held up.
going back
Yeah.
north.
So one solution might create another issue. We just look at it and have them model it. But does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So-
it's a little tight there. I was
So
just wondering if there was a way to reduce all that truck traffic up on 600 East.
and maybe one truck that blocks traffic for a little while helps. I don't know.
Anyway,
Okay.
I'm kind of pushing for an exit up there.
where there used to be, off the interstate, where there used to be an exit? No?
A second off ramp.
Second
So,
off ramp.
so after you come over State Street, then they would have an exit that goes under the,
So the exit we have now,
Okay.
and go up about a half a mile and exit onto the
Oh.
frontage.
Oh, under the frontage. Oh, I see. You get to come
That would
further,
take all of that
you come further
truck
south.
traffic going across.
Good seeing you as well.
Thanks for enduring, Clark.
yep. Thanks, Clark.
That would work
So-
too.
Anyway, just,
UDOT thinks it's a good idea, but like I said there, we might have 10 throws up by the time it gets there.
yeah.
Movement is two
The
different
other,
things.
the other thing I will say on both, on those comments is we do have an RPO, the Regional Planning Organization, that is now just Morgan County and Morgan City, where we can, once they start holding those meetings, we can get maybe a little bit more detail into our traffic issues between the two of us and get some potential projects looked at, or some grant funding, at least for the study side of it, some technical assistance. So anyway, keep those thoughts on mind, and maybe that's a good approach, is to get all of our transportation stuff on that committee agenda. Just an idea. Prioritize them and get them looked at, but
Wow.
anyway, so just a couple of dates before I get into the last item, which is the drought. The Chamber Golf Tournament this year is on June 3rd. So if anybody's interested, let me know. We usually sponsor. Are you gonna play this time, or just stand me up like you did the?
2 years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good thing to support. We usually have two teams, the city sponsors. So it's open. We've done a okay job with employees, having our own employees, but we've extended invites into other places. What's that?
Should I just drive the car?
Sure. Or I could go and have 3 caddies. Who cares?
Be happy to do that too. Just don't let me take a whack at the ball.
Yeah. And then the 4th of July celebration is on the 4th of July. So we did hear that there's, I don't know why, but there's some communities doing Saturday instead of Monday. But, it's actually on Monday, the fireworks and stuff. So just so you know, it's. Yeah, it falls on a Monday, and last time it was on Sunday, but we did it on Saturday, right? And I don't know why Monday. But anyway, that wasn't really a concern for the chamber. They're going for it. 4th of July, actually on the 4th of July. So they're getting stuff planned, so that's good.
Cardboard and duct tape back out. Can make a boat.
Yeah. Make a,
Big fireworks last year.
yeah, so same show,
Just for
or
you, Jeff.
same size show this year as last year. They got a lot of good comments from that.
Yeah.
Well, it sure ticked me off when they went up by the river that couple of years.
Yeah, it wasn't in your front yard, right?
Couldn't see nothing.
So anyway, that, and then, so we got some water stuff to talk about. I think this meeting, if I get some feedback, I can come back with recommendations. So the Weber Basin held their meeting. They're not doing secondary water till May 15th. So we're not gonna do our secondary system till May 15th, if everyone's okay with that, just to keep everything equal.
It's not our system, is it?
Well, we have secondary customers on the North Morgan side, right, that we provide. And until our secondary system isn't watering outdoors, I think we just need to stay all on the same page, so it's not one side of town versus the other.
Are they lined up too, the ditch companies, to go on the 15th?
Yeah, so that nobody's getting any water from the
All
river.
irrigations.
Yeah, shut down.
We already know it's gonna shut down early too, right?
Yeah, and then it'll shut down on the September 15th. So they've announced that. We're not necessarily a Weber Basin customer, but just to help with consistency and not confuse a lot of people, that's why our start date is kind of the same.
Makes sense.
So we've just decided to do that part. There's a couple questions that we need to talk about if we're gonna regulate outdoor watering. So Weber Basin customers, if they have a meter, can water any day of the week. But they have an allotment because it's metered. If they don't have a meter, they're restricted to water just one day a week. We met with the Secondary Water Users Association, and they were ready to say one day a week. However, I personally don't believe that that's the best approach for their system. Because if everyone tries to water on the same day, I don't think you maintain pressure. The other thing it doesn't do is maximize the water in the reservoir, because then you have 6 days of a full reservoir, and so you run all your pumps, water heavy all on one day, maybe not get very good pressure. And I'd rather see people, at least if we're going to do one day, at least get good coverage on the day that they water, so that they don't feel like they need to supplement. Internally, we met with our staff. We don't necessarily, we feel like maybe 2 days on alternating days would be better. So if you're like an odd, even house number, you get Tuesday, Thursday. If you're even or odd, you get Monday, Wednesday. And, that way, if you don't get pressure, or you're not home or something one day, would still have the restrictions. But it's interesting because they're looking to us, they'll do whatever the city wants. If we want to regulate outdoor water usage, but it's not our system, it's theirs. But we can't avoid the fact that, if they only go to one day a week, it's really going to put a lot of pressure on people trying to water their lawns with the culinary system. So it would have I think that would have a negative impact on us.
One day would be the same for the whole city.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not staggered.
Yeah.
No way to stagger it, I guess.
Yeah, that's what they wanted, is just one day. So then it's visually obvious for everybody that somebody's watering on Tuesday, but I don't know the system's designed to handle that. So that's just kind of where we're at. The other thing is our rates. We've left them in place. I think the drought's worse than it was last year. I think the rate was really effective on finding leaks. and really changing water usage behavior. And so we've just told people, that overage rate increase is going to stay until, the council changes their mind. And we also wanted to wait till after spring, since our source is spring and well, we wanted to make sure we saw what the snowpack does, because I think our spring's probably more at risk this year than it was last year, but who knows?
So just back up a little bit though, the consideration of just watering secondary water 1 day a week. Why is that changed from last year where we said, let's just promote conservation and, pretty extensive promotion with yard signs and different things that way? Do we have data that would say we're in a worse situation now than we were last year?
The Weber Basin has that data, right? So the starting point for the reservoirs is less than it was last year, and the snowpack, the snow water equivalent is less. That's why
Do we know to what degree? I mean, how do we know we couldn't do 3 days instead of just 1 day?
well, and like I said, for their metered customers, they're still going to allow them to water every day. It's just they have an allotment that they can't go over, but our system doesn't have meter capability or amounts, right? So I'm not saying we need to do that. That's just some of the discussion that's out there.
Weber Basin is going to just the 1 day without a meter.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do whatever we can. We can do whatever we want. That's why I say we're not a Weber Basin customer,
Okay.
other than the start date. Like
Right.
nobody's getting
Right.
water till the start date, and then whatever approach we want to take. So last year we did a lot of work on fixing meters. We did educational campaign. We did get, I think we had some pretty good successes, but we didn't water the parks. We didn't operate the splash pad. We did other stuff, as a city user as well. And those are some of the considerations we need to think about. And so, we can do promotion and not regulation. It's totally up to us.
So
As far as the city though, the city system isn't necessarily subject to the same issues that the
right. So
secondary
so
system.
we've got to really talk about two different systems in my mind.
Yeah, other than if we want to do something citywide, the secondary water company is saying whatever we decide to implement that they will follow, but they're not going to put their own restrictions. They're not going to say, hey, if you're a secondary customer,
This is what
they're just going to defer to
That's
the
kind of what they
city.
did last year. They
Defer
asked
to the
us for
city,
direction.
which is kind of odd since it's their
So
system, but anyway.
it sounded like maybe you were leading up to a introduction of metering. Is that in the cards, or do we take that off the table right now?
For them, it's a state requirement. The legislature has an end date, like 2030.
Who's
Everybody,
them? Secondary water?
secondary water has to install meters on all their connections by 2030.
So have you heard anything from them? Have they got any plans to do that?
No, I can tell you that they have no plans, but other than, it's coming. There's also some current grant dollars that they could apply for. But really that cost goes to the homeowners.
So secondary water right now, metering isn't an option
Right,
this
not-
year.
Not this year, no.
Or the next year, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's gonna be a heavy lift. It's gonna be a heavy
Well, I
lift.
wonder if they'll come to us and ask for help in
Well, and and the other thing is we can-
coordinating or installing.
yeah, or, if we say, hey, that's your system, we're not gonna spend the time and resources monitoring outdoor water usage. We're fine doing that too. You know what I mean? It's, but whatever we do, I think we just need to be careful that we're not, because we've already had requests to, hey, can I connect onto the city system and get rid of my secondary connection? So we're already having people ask about cross connection just on the fact that they can't water till the 15th. Right? So people are already like, well, forget this. I'm gonna use my culinary, which once they do, I think the rate protects the system. right?
That's what it was
If
intended.
if you connect and even if we don't know about the connection and it'll show up on your first water bill when you water your yard, they'll understand. So,
I've been asked twice, 3 times now about the splash pad.
yeah,
Well,
we don't start it until Memorial Day weekend anyway, so we haven't really decided on that, but maybe limited hours.
it didn't look too good last year. This year could be even worse. So, go from there, but
Yeah, and that's something that we can do in the next meeting maybe, but it does have an automatic shut off, so it runs 15 minutes at a time. If someone doesn't push the button again, it'll shut off after 15 minutes.
I think you need to run it some to.
We had some problems with it last year is originally why it didn't get started is because it wasn't operational for the first part of the year. And then we just have to talk about that concept, right? Is because we want people to be so conservative with their water that we're gonna operate the splash pad so you can come play around, or do you know what I mean? Or do you say, no, we can't win as far as public opinion goes, no matter what we do.
the
It's
splash pad to me, it's as much about optics as it is anything.
yeah,
The city's running a splash pad. I just haven't
Right.
wanted
Yeah.
water in my lawn.
which is why I'm just kind of starting that discussion. So if you have specific things you would like me to propose at the next meeting, yeah, or if it's operational, that's just something we just work out between us. You can say, yeah, let's do limited hours, limited days, or
I think you need to.
Just see
run
how it goes.
some Till you're, it's gonna fall, it's gonna go to hell.
what's that?
I think you do need to run it some, just to keep
Keep it operational.
Maybe,
operational and, we got a lot of money.
Twice a
invested
month,
in it.
yeah.
maybe a couple of days a week even, or
Yeah,
something
just
like
a
that.
couple days a week,
Well,
or something, just something.
Yeah, run it for
Gaskets
30
for
days
that.
and then it's, we're in the middle of this hot season. We're in the end. We can't do it during that.
Yeah.
Give it a little bit of an opportunity to begin with, but.
Yeah, I think,
Understand.
and I think the way our system is built, because it's on well and spring, whatever we do, our risk is at the end of the season.
Right.
Right. Like I have no doubt we're gonna not have issues with flow right now. Right? How long a spring runs or how, before a well draws down is our big question. So we can monitor that as we go and adjust as necessary. So the city system, I feel like, is in pretty good shape. All things considered.
We hope.
We just want, yeah, but we want to be prudent and just kind of start down that direction. So like if we do see something, I will, we'll have an agenda item, and that's kind of what happened when the rates went up is, when the numbers on a spring drop off or something that it's like, whoa.
So right now, let's break it down a little bit. Right now, the primary system we just leave that intact because we've got it's managed by our rates and we're okay going into the season as it is right now. So really our discussion then probably centers around secondary tonight.
Yep, secondary and outdoor watering is what we'd like to see, if we'd like to do anything restrictive. And then as part of that, one of the things that is directly in our purview is our landscaping requirements, or if we want to postpone any. So that's also something I think we did at the end of last year, is say, no, this is not the time. I don't know if we did it officially, but this is not the time to establish a new yard. And then we also have a park strip requirement where, I don't know that it was official, but we require
Right.
greens, on a park strip on a commercial or whatnot. And we haven't addressed that. But
Yeah, I think
most everybody else is going away from that into, not even allowing it, but encouraging dryscape in park strips, just as long as it looks good.
I think we're limited in just a few choices is all in that by our own rules.
Yeah, by our own rules, yeah.
Yeah.
So we could,
People may want to do more than just what those 3 options are that we have.
yeah, but that's also a real, I think an easy first step too, is just not require people to landscape in park strips when it's not a good time to do that.
Landscape grass, I mean, would there be a requirement to do something?
Oh, landscape, yeah, dryscape, you can,
Yeah. Just, we don't want weeds.
Yeah, but right now, we don't even allow, it has to be a certain percent in grass.
Yeah.
So we need to maybe change that ordinance.
That makes sense.
So, we'll maybe mark up specific wording on that section of,
Some cities go.
yeah, look at that. And if there's certain, one thing we don't want to do is just, we don't want to postpone that entire section because it also includes fencing and other things that might make sense. If we need to kind of sift through that. So there's your,
Is that done by way of ordinance?
yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, so look at that, mark it up, yeah, and just see how you feel about it. And we can do that, just taking individual notes, put something together, and then we can look at it as a group. After it goes to planning commission, probably be the best next step. So,
Back to secondary water, do we pull any triggers tonight on that?
we don't have an agenda item to do anything, so, yeah, like, what are we doing? There's,
Gals would like some direction of
yeah.
what we tell people. We've been telling them they're gonna discuss it tonight.
Well, and the other part is, there is no secondary till the 15th of May, so we can tell them that right now, and I think we
Be an
can,
answer for the moment, wouldn't it?
yeah, just say we're not gonna know until
Two more board.
Yeah.
council meetings before
May.
then.
Gary, any discussion similarly in Layton on water?
There is, we recently put into
Yeah, we got
play
two
a
more.
water ordinance, a complete water ordinance, which I think a lot of cities have done, which provides for different types of landscaping. And we considered whether or not to allow new landscaping to be put in with development. I know that that's probably, you haven't got a lot of development going on right now, but if you did, we've limited that. And we really depend on the tier system, to control the interior use, but the exterior use, we're doing the same thing that you're doing, which is to,
Your secondary or exterior would be Weaver Basin though, right?
Weaver Basin, Case Creek, and we've got several companies.
Well, you've got some of your own, okay, that you,
We just
you
took over
manage.
we actually took over by transfer the entire Case Creek Irrigation Company, which is all
Okay.
of their pressurized system.
uh-huh.
And we left the ditch system in their hands, but the pressurized system, we took over because we can
Who's
handle
we?
it better.
Leighton City took it
Layton
over.
City took it
I
over.
wonder if we're headed that way.
Transferred all of the water rights to the city and the shares. We've eliminated and eliminated shares is what we've done. We've gone there, we've had a way of doing it and we put that into play, but really the system is not worth anything more than the transportation, water transportation. We've talked about that a lot. And so, yeah, will that ever be considered by Morgan? We've talked about it a lot of times and
To take over a system, are they compensated for it? You just say you'll do it, huh?
and we had a method of doing it, a method of putting it together. But it's probably a conversation for
You're right. Yeah.
another day to.
It's actually a conversation for a couple minutes from now.
Probably.
In a closed meeting.
Probably. On one thing, Dave,
Sorry, got it.
you're going to League of Cities and Towns, Dave.
Yes.
You're gonna hear a lot of talk about this sort of thing, secondary.
Yeah, I'll
and-
bet.
And a lot of time out in the hallway, you can pick other cities' brains and ask them what they're doing, or I think you're gonna
Yeah,
have a lot
good
of
point.
information on that.
Yeah,
So
let's see if we can come back with something even.
then if they have questions, just refer them to Ty Bailey, your city manager. Send him.
I'd rather have those inquiries than just vendors, straight vendors.
Send your vendors to Ty Bailey too.
Any particular direction you're looking, Ty? I appreciate you asking for direction. from
Yeah,
us.
I think everything on our own system, I think I feel comfortable with, the
As is.
splash pad and stuff like that. I think the rates are been effective. I think that's good to hold. I do wonder though about the landscaping doesn't make sense to not allow people to do new landscaping. That's just because the amount of, the amount of water and stuff that takes, but it's, then again, is it really for us to worry about? Because it's secondary systems thing.
There are some cities now that are not only not encouraging park strips being green, but actually requiring that they are not green. Yeah.
Yeah. So the nice thing is on our system, everything's metered. I think education and people's just general, there's a lot about it statewide. You can't avoid not hearing about it. But it's almost like, to me, if you regulate it, has almost the opposite effect where it's like you only get to water 1 day a week, then it goes for an hour instead of 15 minutes per set. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that people get a little crazy about. And then
Used similarly.
yeah, and then the other thing that, it's like how much time and effort do we want to spend regulating,
Job.
outdoor watering that's not, much of it's not ours. And if they did make that switch, their bill's gonna
Yeah, who's
probably
gonna,
discourage that.
who's gonna enforce it?
Yeah, that was my question. Do you have enforcement?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not ours.
well, and once you go down that road though, I think neighbors kind of do a lot of their own.
Self-police.
Yeah, we hear about it, but
Shaming.
my yard's brown and they're
Green.
watering 4 times a week.
Yeah,
So,
I got one of them.
Shaming, yes.
yeah. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. And maybe the best approach is just do education and, just say that late start date helps.
The other thing that comes into play is the secondary system, the association says that they have so much water, and once it's gone, it's gone. We don't know that couldn't maybe go until December.
Yeah.
So you'd hate, you need to conserve for sure, but
Well, they're saying they're shutting it off in September,
yeah.
no matter what.
But it seemed like last year we were always under the little bit of a threat, if you will, that could next week be the week that it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
That they've drawn all of their allotment from the reservoir,
Yeah.
and it never came. So, maybe there's more water than would you say there's only 1 day a week when we could have done 3, I think we need to probably be a little bit careful there.
Yeah, no,
Or are they expecting to get their full allotment this year? That's a good question for them. Or they've been given any notice that it's cut back by 1/3 or 20% or something.
The interesting thing about the metering on secondary water is here, I thought all along they were using it to bill people. And my understanding is all they're doing it for right now is to bring to the attention how much water they're using.
Yeah. Just the fact that it's metered
Shock,
means
the
you know
shock
what you're
value,
using.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Weaver Basin will tell you, I remember the
Sure.
Flint guy, yeah, he'll tell you that the moment they start metering, the usage goes down.
It was like 20 to 30%.
Yeah, it was significant. So that's why they're embracing that program right now.
So, okay, that's all my reports unless.
With my mouth full.
Snowing
Yeah, if we were good enough people, we could get a good rainstorm once a week. Right?
twice.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion the council has?
I have one item when it's appropriate.
It's appropriate.
Okay. I've looked into an idea a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of perhaps compensating our planning commission for their work and their efforts. Some cities do that, some don't, but it is an option. It's something that we could consider. I'd like to see maybe and I'm going to call it just a token payment for lack of a better word, of say $50 to $75 that could be available for attendance to a meeting. It would be based on, you'd have to be to the meeting to get the money. And with Ray walking out, I wondered if he was objecting to what I was saying.
He was on his phone.
Oh, he'll be back. Ooh. Um, But I think it'd do several things. I think it would show a little bit of importance to what they're doing for us. I think if you consider all the time that they spend in research or that they could be spending in additional meetings, I mean, we spent an evening over here just a month ago. It probably ends up being the time they spent based on a $50 to $75 payment. It ended up being just probably less than a minimum wage. So it wouldn't be considered compensation for your time. But I think it would be something that could have a little bit of a psychological or moral victory that you are being paid and we recognize that your time is worthwhile. You could look at it, it could be a dinner once a month for Denise. You know, there could be, you could look at it that way. It could be something that, in my mind, the member would feel a little better about their service to the city. I think we're at a good point right now that, you know, we're at the beginning of a budget year that it could be budgeted and checking with Ty a little bit there. It seems to be something that we could fit in as long as it was accounted for. Checking with Gary, it's something that we could start immediately. Is that fair to say? Or I mean, as soon as it was practicable. Sure. Yeah, I mean, it would have to be a payment a lot like a council member or a mayor would be, where it's I'm sure it would be Denise, where it would have to be a withholding and the taxes paid and is shown as income on a W-2. But anyway, I would propose that and throw that out and see if there's any reason maybe not to do it, or if that's something that we move forward with.
We're on the same wavelength.
Is that right?
Discuss that a little bit.
Already, huh?
And you're right. I mean, it isn't I just sat here and did $75, you know, for 7 of them at a meeting, you know, 12 months of the year.
Mhm.
I only coming up with $6,000 to $7,000.
Well, and on average, they belong to them.
Yeah.
They don't have a meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not a humongous amount of money.
I think I'd propose that they need to be in attendance at the monthly meeting to collect the fee. If the meeting were canceled on our part, they'd all be paid. But if they couldn't make it, then that would be another reason to do it, another incentive, and that is, I do get paid if I'm there tonight. So not that we have an attendance problem. I mean, they do good in showing up, but
So, do they not get paid monthly?
no, we don't pay anything right now. It's all volunteer.
The chair.
That's right.
100% volunteer.
Yeah, it's all volunteer.
So just my thought, if I can.
Yeah, please.
Just, I like the, just for the meetings you're here, even if a meeting gets canceled because it's not your time,
Mhm.
right? So just compensated for the time, but include a training amount too, right? So a separate stipend that might even be more than a meeting to reinforce the trainings that are offered. And so I'm just saying, like, there's trainings offered off-site or on a Saturday,
Mhm.
you know, the league trainings.
Online.
Well, maybe
Right.
that one event, the one that we just did.
Yeah,
That
so,
was significant.
so without counting hours and all that, just maybe a little set aside for X amount in training, because that's where a lot of those are also either on a Saturday or during the day when
Yeah,
you
fair
know,
enough.
we get good attendance, but we don't necessarily get really good participation on training opportunities at the league or whatnot. So that's all I would mention it's
Ray, would you accept $1,000 a month as an alternate planning commission member?
that's the only reason he took it, is because it's 100% volunteer.
Because of the high pay. If a person wanted, I'm sure they could turn it back, but nonetheless, I don't know, Jeff, any?
Yeah, to
Okay.
give some incentive to go out and do something above and beyond the
Yeah.
2-hour meeting
Yeah.
even.
I think it
that idea.
recognizes
trained.
value, if you will. We're saying to the person that you have some value to what you're doing. It's it's recognized. Um, If we feel that way, I don't know that we need a resolution, Gary, of any sort, or we just move forward.
No, it's actually a decision of the council because it's appointed by the mayor and with the advice and consent of council. So it would be a decision that you'd have to make once it's on the agenda. So,
Okay,
and it would just be probably by resolution is probably the best way to do it. If it
Okay.
was a personnel issue, Ty would be able to,
Yeah, or, we're gonna consider the budget.
that's a good place to do it as well.
So if it's just included in the,
Mhm.
unless, so it would basically mean it would start in July if we just incorporate that into the next year's
You
budget.
could do that without resolution. then.
Yeah.
Okay,
That is proof of the public hearing. in
Right.
the Ordinance, so.
okay.
We have to do an ordinance to change the city code, because in the city code, doesn't it mention that the mayor and
The,
council receive
compensation.
So would we have to make that same language in the city code if it's there for the planning commission?
Yeah, it's really not compensation. It's more of a stipend is what it is. just
Mhm,
for being
sure,
there. But I think we're okay just to do it by resolution. I think you're fine to, if you just want to, we'll put it in a resolution and whatever amount you think is appropriate. And then maybe we can talk about the extra events as well.
Throw out a low of 50 and a high of 75. Any thoughts there?
I'd go 75.
Okay. Jeff squared.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Would you help with the resolution, Gary? Is that something that you draw up? Okay,
Sure. I'll get together with time.
okay. Along those ideas that we talked about then, and we'll move forward with it. I think it'd be a positive and would be,
So you want to go that direction instead of just put it in the budget? As a, before July.
By resolution, but if
yeah.
you do the budget, you don't have to go through all that.
I mean, I think it'd be well to get going sooner rather than later, but at the same time, if it's less work, July's fine.
It's not necessarily, it's not more or less.
It's gonna, there's gonna be some ramp up time in collecting, the information for payroll.
What do we pay the chair right now?
200? No.
No.
We pay the vice chair anything?
Well, we'd want to make sure that that's appropriate. We wouldn't want to pay him 50 and then the other 75, right?
I know it makes, I think it make at least 75, but I'm wondering if you want to pay the chair, always just a little more.
How much? 150? Okay, well, it'd still be in line then.
Yeah, if that would be the case, I think it'd be good.
All right. That's a good point. It's gonna take some time to ramp up. We're probably not doing anything till June or July anyway. Let's just go through the budget process.
Put it right into the new year's
Yeah,
budget.
yep. Right. Yeah, perfect. Well, we'll be looking at budgets here in another month or so anyway,
Yeah,
right?
it's May. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we need to wait till the next meeting to make it official and formal though, correct? So Denise, will you put that on an agenda item for the next meeting? You can, what do you call it? But our concept tonight, does that need to be
No,
on
we
the
don't,
agenda?
we don't need to make a decision. I just write it into the budget. and get
Okay.
approval.
Okay.
Yeah, we made it easy for you.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's keep it easy.
I like to keep it easy.
When we approve the preliminary budget in May, it'll be in there.
Sure.
And,
Yeah,
exactly what you-
that encompasses all of the budget items.
And then the final budget's in June.
Yeah, the planning chair is 200,
Okay, 200.
205.
Okay.
That's what.
Well, let's look at a $75 amount and figure that in for the coming year.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I was smashing my wrappers down.
Any more discussion?
That's all I had. Thank you.
Just have David just declare that he's not instituting the rate because he has plans on becoming a planning commissioner.
Yeah. There we go.
You know, now that there's a cycle, it's like, forget this. I'd rather be a planning chair for
You know, was
$75 a month.
it South Salt Lake that just voted raises and boy, the whole community was up in arms.
That's funny.
Yeah, the council did.
I'm just harassing you.
No, that's a good point, though. A lot of what we do is clearly voluntary,
Oh, yeah.
even though there is some compensation. Similarly, we're probably back below a minimum wage if you considered all the hours that a mayor spent in running the business.
I was surprised there was even a salary. So,
Yeah, you were willing to do it for free.
any more discussion? Does anyone have a motion to go into the closed session?
Mayor, I will be happy to make a motion that we go into the closed session for
Some
the
titles
purchase,
in the back.
exchange, or lease of real property, and also the discussion of the character, professional competency, or physical or mental health of an individual.
Second. Okay, Tony has a motion. Is that Jeff? Has a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Who's available?